Chapter 13:26. Li Mengyao looked at Yi Chun with tear-stained eyes. She was completely moved. At this moment, she was willing to do anything for the man in front of her, including death. When Yi Chun saw their expressions, he found it funny and waved his hand. "All right, put away. The path understanding tree is in my hands. I will harvest new path understanding tea every day. When I have more, I will share it with you." Hu Xiaoya jumped into Yi Chen's arms in a strange way. She exposed her white and tender wrist to Yi Chen's neck and rubbed her little head on Yi Chen's chin like a puppy, saying, "Master, you are so good to us. How can we repay you?" Yi Chen laughed and said, "Haha, it's easy to repay me. You just have to become strong immediately and be my good wife." In the next few days, the entire sacred city of Samsara was preparing for war. Under Guofeng Xiao and Jiasu's arrangement, Zhang Liao and Gao Shun each led tens of thousands of soldiers and horses out of the sacred city of Samsara. They were busy outside for a day and did not return to the city until sunset. Zhang Fei asked curiously, "What are you two doing sneaking around?" Gao Shun had always been indifferent. He said expressionlessly, "This is a military secret. If General Zhang is interested, you can ask Military Counselor Guo and Military Counselor Jian in person." Zhang Fei glared at him and said, "Forget it. What's the big deal?" At this time, Guan Yu came over and stared at Zhang Fei, saying, "What are you talking about? Are you ready for the tasks I've assigned to you?" In the Samsara dynasty, besides Yi Chun, Zhang Fei listened to Guan Yu the most. After seeing Zhang Fei being pulled away by Guan Yu, Gao Shun and Zhang Liao shook their heads helplessly. Although Zhang Fei was absolutely trustworthy and the task they carried out was not a top secret, of course, their cautious nature allowed them to keep the secret. Under the powerful perception of Yi Chen's divine sense, nothing within a radius of 20 million miles could escape his notice. In the past few days, he had gained a general understanding of the location of the Samsara dynasty. It was located in the northwest of the untainted world, in the wilderness. The first place within a radius of 50 million miles belonged to the northwest Yinzhou, which was also the territory of the demon tribe. It was no wonder that a city of the human clan suddenly appeared in the territory of the demon clan in the northwest Cloud Prefecture. This was like stabbing a knife into the demon clan's body. No wonder they were regarded as a thorn in their flesh. Moreover, the sacred city of Samsara had already become a delicious piece of meat in the mouths of the demon race. These demon clans kept spreading the word that the sacred city of Samsara was simply overflowing with wealth. Even the most ordinary soldiers had a full set of spirit equipment. As long as they could break through the sacred city of Samsara, everyone would be rich. Therefore, in the process of the cloud tribulations, there were a total of 108 forces in the northwest cloud region. Some scattered forces of the demon race also began to gather here. The total number of the allied forces of the demon race was more than 120 million. Even the scattered forces of the demon race added up to at least 30 million. It was never the demon race's nature to have the patience to plan before taking action. Moreover, the 120 million allied forces of the demon race covered an area of thousands of miles. Even if one stood at a high place, one would not be able to see the end of it. It was like an endless swarm of locusts that covered the sky. This gave the demon race great confidence. Moreover, the foreign aid that they had invited, the Demon King Black Wind Demon King, had already arrived. Therefore, the alliance masters of the 108 forces waved their flags and moved out. On the morning of the second day, the vanguard of the allied forces of the demon race had already rapidly approached the sacred city of Samsara. This time, they attacked from all directions. If one looked down from the sky, the allied forces of the demon race that gathered from all directions looked like a black ocean. The sacred city of Samsara was a stubborn stone that stood upright in this black ocean. This black ocean could drown this stubborn stone at any time. At this moment, within the Samsara city, all the major legions, including the Samsara Legion and the White Horse Legion, had already spread out on the city walls. This time, the Samsara dynasty had mobilized all their forces. Even Yi Chen's harem women were standing on the city walls, which gave the soldiers great encouragement. Just like the last time, Yi Chen remained in the throne room and did not appear. He left the battlefield completely to the strategists and valiant generals. This time, the pressure they faced was much greater than the previous time. Not only did the number of enemies increase by almost a generation, but the demon race had also mobilized their elites this time. Although the Samsara Legion and the White Horse Legion had collectively upgraded and changed their equipment, if they did not have the support of the Samsara city, it was very likely that they would be wiped out in a head-on battle. Therefore, they had to grow up as soon as possible. Fortunately, the Northwest Cloud City was only a city in the wilderness. Although there were many demon race members here, their cultivations were generally not high. This gave them a chance to train their troops. Roar! Heroes of the demon race. Do you see the city in front of us? It's filled with countless gold. Take it, and we will have endless wealth. Women, equipment, and status. For the honor of the demon race, kill, kill, roar. The demon race members all over the mountains and plains responded in unison, making thunderous roars. The surrounding demon race members swept over like stormy waves. Dark clouds loomed over the city. Faced with a boundless black sea, the soldiers of the sacred city of Samsara were under great pressure. The demon race members were all huge, ugly, and ferocious, and their eyes were bloodthirsty and cruel. Once the city was breached, the consequences could be imagined. Standing on the city wall, Dian Wei tore off his armor and bared his magnificent chest. He spat down the city wall in disdain and sneered mockingly. Demons have no honor at all. I didn't kill enough last time. This time, I'll kill enough. A rude man jumped onto the battlements of the city wall, tore off his belt, and directly poured hot urine on the demon race members below the city wall. He laughed wildly and said, "Bastards of the demon race, look at your pitiful appearance. This grandpa's heart aches. This grandpa has brewed a pot of hot tea for you. Don't stand on ceremony. Come and drink. Even if it's grandpa's urine, it's still the best wine for you. Ha 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 ha. Oli, get down here. This daddy's urine is yellow. I'll pour it on them." This fellow's nonsense caused a roar of laughter, which eased the awkward atmosphere on the city wall. Chapter 13:27. Su Chu grabbed him and scolded him. "Do you want to die? Dog leftover, do you want to die? Her Majesty's womenfolk are over there. Watch your behavior. If you dare to show it again, I'll cut it off for you." Go Leftover was so scared that he clenched his legs and scratched his head in embarrassment. Hee boss, I know my mistake." Su Chu's face darkened. "Don't do it again." Kaboom! Billions of demons ran at the same time, causing the ground to tremble. When they entered the attack range of the holy city of Samsara's arrows, these demons laughed sinisterly at the same time. With a flip of their hands, they placed the huge black iron or on their backs above their heads. In an instant, the dark iron oars were connected to each other. The black and heavy oars were like a huge moving shield. They rumbled as they charged towards the holy city of Samsara. Seeing this unforeseen event, the faces of the ordinary soldiers changed greatly. Only a few generals and strategists like Su Shu, Guijia, and Jia Su remained calm. Guijia waved his feather fan and sneered. These demons came prepared. Jia Su's eyes flashed coldly as he said cruelly, "I hope these bastards like the gift we prepared for them. But for now, let's test the effects of Spirit Tear Bow." Dian Wei nodded and returned to Chun Lai. He shouted, "Archers, get ready." Swoosh! All the soldiers who were still equipped with spirit-grade bows drew their bows at the same time. Their bows were like a full moon, and sharp arrows were on the string. Fire! Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless arrows whistled as they soared into the sky. Like a dark cloud, they rained down on the demon race. Swoosh, swoosh. The dark iron oars followed closely behind, but they were still raw oars that had not been tempered. Ordinary arrows might not be able to do anything to them, but spiritual weapons could still penetrate them. However, after the arrows pierced through the dark iron oars, their speed and power were reduced to the extreme. Other than a few unlucky ones who were shot in the head, the rest of the demons were only injured. For the demons with strong vitality, this did not affect their movements. Instead, they roared even more ferociously as they advanced. Guojia frowned. They had killed less than 100,000 demons this time. It seemed that their method was still effective. Seeing this, the leaders of the 108 forces of the demon clan laughed proudly. "Ha! Did you see that? It was simply too awesome. This kind of loss was just a drop in the ocean. We don't need to pay 10% of the price to take down this city." At this moment, the Black Wind Demon King, who was like the moon surrounded by a myriad of stars, opened his cold eyes and said, "I'm already here. Let's make this clear first. Whether you use me or not, I'll take my share of the spoils. Not a single cent less." Although the leaders appeared respectful on the surface, they were feeling disgusted in their hearts. If they had known this would happen, they would not have used the Black Wind Demon King. Unfortunately, it was easier to invite the devil than to send him away. Now, he had to give him a portion of the profits for free. One of the leaders gritted his teeth. Since they were already here, it would be a waste not to use them. Thus, he stood out and said, "Lord Demon King, you think too much. We demon clans are people who keep our word. How can we go back on our words? There must be something strange about this human city. I think we will need Lord Demon King to take action personally later." The Black Wind Demon King raised his wine cup and took a sip. He laughed heartily and said, "Everything is negotiable. It's just a small human city. In my opinion, taking down this city is as easy as taking something out of my pocket. Everyone, let's drink first. If these boys can't take it down, I'll take action personally." In the sacred city of Samsara, Dianwei roared loudly. "The first group, stand back and get ready. The second group, get ready to shoot." Immediately, the group of people who had just designed the plan retreated. They took out the Great Annihilation Divine Talisman and tied it to their bows. The second group consisted of the 1,000,000 commanders who were equipped with artifact-grade bows and arrows. They were all above the rank of sergeant. Release. Wong. 1,000,000 artifact-grade bows and arrows were fired at the same time. This time, after the black cloud-like arrows were shot out, there was a faint rumble of thunder in the sky. On the Demon Clan side, everyone raised their heads in shock. The arrows shot by the artifact-grade bows and arrows had already been fired. Puffed. Under the immense power of the artifact-grade bows and arrows, the thick and heavy black iron ores were like tofu. They couldn't provide any protection at all. The artifact-grade bows and arrows were too powerful. Even if they only hit the arms or thighs of the Demon Clan, the immense power was enough to turn the entire body of the Demon Clan into dust. These artifact-grade bows and arrows belonged to the Samsara Legion, the White Horse Righteous Army, and the various major armies. They were the ones with the highest cultivation. Naturally, they didn't miss their targets. Even an expert like Huang Zhong had 4 or 5 heads explode like watermelons with a single slash of his sword. It was just a round of arrows, but the casualties of the Demon Clan had increased by more than 10 times. About 1,000,000 Demon Clan members were shot to pieces. What? The leaders of the 108 parties of the demon race stood up in shock. Some of them gnashed their teeth and roared. Damn it, they really have a trump card. They actually have so many magic treasure level longbows. They didn't take them out last time. Some of the leaders shivered in pain. It's just a round of arrows, but they lost more than 1,000,000 Demon Clan elites. Doesn't that mean that they will be completely wiped out after another 100 rounds of arrows? Some of the Demon Clan members turn around and cup their fists respectfully at the Black Wind Demon King. Demon King, it seems like we have to ask you to do it yourself. If we don't eliminate those artifact-grade bows and arrows, I'm afraid our losses will be severe. The Black Wind Demon King laughed and stood up casually. He waved his hand indifferently and said, "Haha, no problem, no problem. I'll do it myself." Then, a gust of demon wind seemed to blow across the place, causing the leaders to stagger and lose their balance. The place was in a mess. The Black Wind Demon King stepped on a black cloud and rapidly approached the city walls of the sacred city of reincarnation from high up in the sky. Guojia, Su Shu, Jia Su, and the other top strategists immediately noticed the Black Wind Demon King. The Black Wind Demon King rolled up the black cloud and unscrupulously emitted the powerful aura of a Demon King. All the warriors on the city walls were shocked. This was a Demon King great expert. Guan Yu snorted coldly. He pointed his green dragon crescent blade at the Black Wind Demon King and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Everyone, shoot this bastard down." Chapter 13:28. Boom! Everyone responded in unison. Immediately after, all the generals pointed their Dharma treasure-level sky bows towards the sky and aimed at the Black Wind Demon King. Thousands of arrows were released in unison. The rain of arrows from the Dharma treasure-level bows was like a storm, blocking the path of the Black Wind Demon King. The Black Wind Demon King snorted coldly and waved his hand. Immediately, an invisible chi wall blocked in front of him. The Dharma treasure-level bows could not penetrate it at all. They fell from the sky powerlessly after piercing through less than half of the chi wall. The expressions of the generals changed. They did not expect the Black Wind Demon King's defense to be so powerful. In just a split second, the Black Wind Demon King was already less than 10 miles away from the sacred city of Samsara. The Black Wind Demon King laughed maniacally and said, "Ants of the human race, what a joke. It's a pity that you don't understand true power. In the face of absolute power, your little tricks are no different from playing house. I'm going to smash the city wall that you're so proud of." Then, the Black Wind Demon King waved his palm indifferently. Suddenly, a huge black fist appeared out of thin air. The huge fist was like a black cloud piercing through the sun. It was half the size of the city. With a thunderous momentum, it came crashing down on the city wall. The Black Wind Demon King stood in the clouds and looked at the generals on the city wall with a mocking expression. He was taking pleasure in their misfortune. He wanted to see their expressions of despair, helplessness, and fear. However, the Black Wind Demon King gradually frowned. He noticed that the people on the city wall were looking at the huge fist with a cold expression. They even looked at the Black Wind Demon King with a sneer. The Black Wind Demon King instinctively felt that something was wrong. However, he could not pinpoint what was wrong. Why did these people have such an expression? Were they not afraid of death? Or did they have some trump cards that he did not know? At this moment, the Black Wind Demon King suddenly heard a cold voice. It was as though the voice was right beside his ears. "You're just a mere Demon King. Who gave you the guts to behave so atrociously in my city? Since you're here, don't think of leaving. Leave your life behind." Black Wind Demon King was immediately alarmed as he hurriedly turned his head. However, he did not see anything. But at that moment, his rapidly descending gigantic fist suddenly vanished as though it had been blown by a gust of wind. It was as though it had never appeared. The Black Wind Demon King felt a chill run from his tailbone to his head. His heart felt like it had fallen into the abyss of hell. He had never felt so horrified before. What kind of expert was capable of neutralizing his attack without a sound? The leaders of the 108 factions who had been watching the battle from afar were also dumbfounded. They did not hear what Yi Chan had just said. All they saw was the Black Wind Demon King's world-shattering attack vanish into thin air. Someone asked in confusion, "What's going on? Why did the Black Wind Demon King's attack disappear?" "I don't know. Perhaps the Black Wind Demon King is toying with them on purpose." I think the Black Wind Demon King is simply too arrogant. Time is of the essence now. Every moment we waste will mean the loss of more of our men. If we don't hurry up and destroy this city, he still has the mood to play around. Shoo, lower your voice. Don't let the Black Wind Demon King hear you. We still have to rely on him. We'll settle the score with him when we become stronger. The Black Wind Demon Monarch's fear was not something they could understand. How many fools could grow up to become a demon monarch in a desolate place like the Northwest Cloud Prefecture? The moment the Black Wind Demon Monarch felt that something was amiss, he turned around and fled without hesitation. All the promises and agreements could go to hell. Nothing was more important than his own life. If he had known that there was such a terrifying expert in this human city, he would not have gotten himself involved in this mess. The moment Black Wind Demon King turned around, he suddenly felt that he couldn't move at all. It was as though he was an insect trapped in amber. Black Wind Demon King didn't even have the strength to move his eyebrows. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't even blink his eyes. The Black Wind Demon King was so scared that he almost peed his pants. What kind of power was this? Why couldn't he move? At this moment, he heard a gust of wind in his ears. Immediately after, he felt a sudden chill in his chest. He saw a pitch-black light shoot out from his chest, leaving a huge basin-sized hole in his chest. His heart, meridians, and bones had all disappeared. The Black Wind Demon King even felt a cold air blowing out from his back through the transparent hole in front of him. He even heard the sound of cold wind whistling. After Yi Chen's soul-devouring spear pierced through the Black Wind Demon King, it quickly returned to Yi Chen's hand. The Black Wind Demon King closed his eyes in despair. The vitality in his body quickly dissipated. His corpse fell from the sky to the ground and was trampled into meat paste by the demon clan members who were running wildly. All of this happened in an instant. Apart from a few people, no one realized what had happened. The leaders of the 108 parties were dumbfounded. They did not even have time to react. What had happened? One of the leaders asked in a daze, "What happened just now? I haven't been sleeping well for the past few days. I think I'm hallucinating. I think I saw the Black Wind Demon King being killed in an instant. Am I right?" Another leader's teeth chattered violently. He gritted his teeth and said, "You didn't King see wrongly. The Black Wind Demon King is indeed dead. He was killed in an instant by someone." The 108 Demon Kings' faces turned extremely ugly. Their faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. No one expected that there would be such an expert hiding in this human city. What should they do? Were they still going to fight this war? Everyone felt as if a huge rock weighing 1,000 kilograms had fallen on their hearts. It was so heavy that they could hardly breathe. However, the arrow was already knocked on the bow. They had no choice but to release it. They pulled a demon race warrior and roared as they advanced. They were already approaching the city walls of Samsara City. In the end, one of the leaders gritted his teeth and said with an ashen face, "Let's give it a try. We're already at this stage. If we don't give it a try, we won't be satisfied. No matter how powerful she is, she's only one person. How many people can she kill? As long as we can break into the city, we can grind her to death even if we have to." The first to reach Samsara City were some tall and strong demon race, such as the bear race or the elephant race. Chapter 1329. Some of the demons were more than 10 meters tall. They were like small mountains. When they arrived at the foot of the city, they placed the huge black iron ore on top of their heads. Then, those who caught up behind them formed the shape of a high platform. The rest of the demons followed suit and stacked on top of each other like a human pyramid. Guojia, Su Shu, Jia Su, and the others immediately saw through the demonic beast's ploy. Guojia sneered and immediately chanted an incantation, activating the runes of the Chaos Talisman. Suddenly, a golden light flashed. Following a violent explosion, the towers built by the demon race collapsed. The other senior strategists followed suit, activating the runes of the Chaos Talisman to bombard the city walls. The sacred city of Samsara was a few hundred meters tall, and the demons had reached a few hundred meters in the blink of an eye. When the towers collapsed, it was a complete mess. Dianwei didn't even look at the city walls. He knew better than anyone that the sacred city of Samsara was under His Majesty's control. As long as Yichan called for the sacred city of Samsara, it would rise another few hundred meters. It was wishful thinking for the demons to think of using this method to break the city walls. Dianwei's roar reverberated through the city walls. First group, prepare to attack. The warriors holding the spirit-grade bows immediately stepped forward. They had already tied all the great annihilation talismans onto their bows. Fire! Following Dianwei's roar, millions of soldiers drew their bows and released their arrows. Like a black cloud, The arrows shot into the sky at a 45-degree angle and rained down on the ground within a few hundred kilometers of the sacred city of Samsara. Seeing this, one of the leaders of the 108 party sneered. I think these humans are at their wits' end. They know that the spiritual bow can't do much damage to us, but they're still doing this. In my opinion, it's just a last-ditch effort. That's right. What's most damaging to us are those magical equipment bows and arrows, as well as those hateful generals on the city wall who can emit golden light. When the city is breached, I'll tear those despicable fellows to pieces. At this moment, the ground within a radius of several hundred kilometers suddenly exploded. It was as if thousands of lightning bolts had struck at the same time. With a loud bang, these demon race leaders couldn't even stand still and fell to the ground. What's going on? What's going on? When they got up in a sorry state, their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. When the arrows landed, a huge explosion occurred. Under the explosion of the Great Annihilation Talisman, the black iron ore was like paper. It exploded violently and immediately tore apart everything within a radius of dozens of feet. All living creatures were torn apart. Boom! Boom! Countless severed limbs flew through the air. On average, each divine talisman of annihilation took the lives of at least a few dozen Yao clan members. The main reason was that the demons were too densely packed. Dozens of demons were squeezed within 100 feet of him, making him look like a sardine can. This also allowed the power of the Great Annihilation Talisman to be maximized. After the first volley of arrows, the area within a radius of a few hundred kilometers had become a vacuum. Severed limbs covered the ground, and blood dyed everything red. It was as terrifying as the 9 Netherhell. Even though these demons were incomparably ferocious, they were still scared out of their wits. After seeing this result, everyone on the city walls waved their fists in excitement. These generals also tied the Great Annihilation Talisman to their spiritual bow and arrow. Their bow and arrow had more than twice the range of the spiritual bow and arrow. In an instant, the Great Annihilation Talisman bloomed all over the battlefield. The Samsara Legion strategy was to use all the spiritual bow and arrow to shoot at the same time, while the spiritual bow and arrow to shoot freely. Moreover, these generals aimed at the places where the demons were the most concentrated. Every shot would take the lives of dozens or even hundreds of demons. In just a short moment, tens of millions of demons had already lost their lives. On the city walls of the Samsara Holy City, there were already lights rising continuously. Someone had advanced. This greatly encouraged everyone. Everyone fought to be the first to shoot the arrows in their hands, as if they were free. This made Dian Wei roar continuously. You bunch of prodigals. Take aim and shoot again. Do you think the Great Annihilation Talisman is free? I've already said it. Everyone will only be given 10 Great Annihilation Talismans. There won't be any more. When Yi Chun, who was seated in the throne room, saw this scene, he shook his head speechlessly. This was truly cheating. With such a powerful killing weapon like the Great Annihilation Immortal Talisman, there was no way these demonic beasts could resist. One of the demon leaders spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! Who can tell me how these damn humans have so many trump cards? How many of these large-scale killing weapons do they have? Unfortunately, no one could answer him. All the leaders had ugly expressions on their faces. Although each of them had sent out 1 million soldiers, these were the elites of each family. If all of them were to die here, then it would be a huge blow to their morale. Those demon warriors who witnessed this scene were already trembling in fear and didn't dare to continue forward. Unfortunately, far behind them, the demon warriors who didn't know about this were still pushing forward. Hence, amidst countless furious and terrified roars, these demon warriors were swept forward like a surging torrent. They screamed and roared crazily. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at the sky, afraid that another round of terrifying sword rain would descend on their heads. Unfortunately, the god of luck wouldn't descend. Dianwei looked coldly at the bustling demon army below the city and coldly gave the order to shoot again. Rumble. The entire Samsara holy city seemed to have been plowed by divine lightning. Mournful cries, roars, curses, and the sounds of frenzied killing could be heard everywhere. Those demons couldn't stand the stimulation and wanted to run back. They crazily killed their companions around them. At this time, those demons who had just attacked below the city were all slaughtered by the top strategists on the city walls because they didn't receive any reinforcements. Just like this, more than half of the 120 million soldiers of the Allied army had died in the 100 miles around Samsara, holy city. Chapter 1330. The leaders of the various races could not hold on any longer. They knew that if they persisted, they would be wiped out like the wolf race in the Silver Moon grassland. Thus, one of the leaders directly asked for everyone's opinion. Then, he took out a unique horn from his bosom and blew it with all his might. Woo-woo, woo-woo. Clearly, this bugle horn was a magic treasure. The sound of the bugle horn instantly spread throughout the noisy battlefield, and all the demons within millions of miles heard it clearly. It was an order to retreat. The demons at the front line heaved a sigh of relief. They felt like they had just escaped death. They turned around and fled without hesitation. The demons at the back were still standing there. They did not understand why they were stopped when they were still a few hundred miles away from the city. Could it be that they had already attacked? They were unwilling. They had not gotten any benefits yet. If they were treated like this, it would be too much. However, most of the demons obeyed the order and retreated quickly. Guojia stood on top of the city wall and watched as the demons retreated like a receding tide. His lips curled into a sinister smile as he said, "Our reincarnation saint city is not a place where you beasts can come and go as you please. It's time for us to take out the big gift we have prepared." Guojia and Jia Su looked at each other and smiled. They then made a hand gesture at the same time. Zhang Fei and the other generals looked at them in confusion. Black mushroom clouds rose one after another within tens of thousands of kilometers around the holy city of Samsara. Rumble. It was followed by a deafening explosion. The explosion was so powerful that even from tens of thousands of miles away, some of the soldiers on the city wall lost their balance and fell to the ground. Zhang Fei's eyes were wide open. He said in shock, "Geomagnetic thunderstorm bomb. Oh my God, when did you guys set it up?" He suddenly turned to Gao Shun and Zhang Liao and asked loudly, "That day you two sneaked people out. Is this what you were doing?" Zhang Liao glared at Zhang Fei unhappily. "Charcoal head, what are you talking about? What do you mean by sneaky? We are carrying out the orders of the military advisor. We must keep it strictly confidential." The destructive power of the geomagnetic lightning bomb was much greater than that of the divine talisman of annihilation. After the first lightning bomb exploded, it would leave behind a huge crater that was several hundred meters deep, and all living creatures within a radius of several hundred meters would be blown to smithereens. This was Guijia and Jiasu's plan. They had expected that the demons would return empty-handed. Therefore, they ordered Gao Shun and Zhang Liao to lead tens of thousands of Jin Dynasty soldiers to plant powerful geomagnetic bombs on their way back, waiting for them to detonate at this moment. The power of the first thunderstorm was too great. Many hills were completely flattened. The stones that were thrown away also caused a devastating blow to the demon race. In this round of geomagnetic lightning bombs, at least tens of millions of demons were directly blown to smithereens. This also made the demons go completely crazy. They hadn't even seen the face of the enemy, and so many of them had already died. Some demons even lost their minds and fled in all directions under the intense fear. They no longer listened to the commands of their generals. When the leaders of the 108 faction saw this, their faces turned pale without a trace of blood. Some of the leaders sat on the ground with blank eyes as they murmured, "It's over, it's over." This time, the demon factions in the Northwest Cloud Prefecture are completely finished. At this moment, Dianwei pulled out his black iron twin halberds. His fierce roar reverberated throughout Samsara. On the city walls, he shouted, "Samsara Legion, charge with me!" Then, Dianwei took the lead and jumped off from the city wall that was hundreds of meters high. Then, the 4 million warriors of the Samsara Legion summoned their mounts and followed him down from the city wall. After all, they were veterans who had been through hundreds of battles. They automatically formed their formation during the charge. The Samsara Legion formed a cold steel torrent. The soldiers sat on their neatly equipped mounts. Their spirit-grade spears formed a forest of death. The orderly sound of horse hooves rumbled like thunder, and the entire ground shook violently with their charge. Dianwei took the lead and roared, "Black Tortoise Formation!" Boom! Countless amounts of energy rose into the air. The spiritual energy of the 4 million Samsara Legion soldiers formed the Black Tortoise Formation in the air. A gigantic black tortoise divine beast appeared out of thin air. After the black tortoise appeared, it raised its head and let out an extremely muffled roar. Immediately after, a bronze light appeared on the bodies of the Samsara Legion soldiers. It was as if a 360-degree barrier with no blind spots had enveloped their mounts and soldiers. Under the protection of the black tortoise, these small demons, and even big demons, could not break through the defense of the Samsara Legion unless they were at the Demon King level. The Samsara Legion, led by Dianwei, was like a cutting machine. They galloped quickly across the entire battlefield. Wherever they passed, the demons were thrown off their mounts. A demon who was running away had his chest pierced by a cold spear. He flew more than 10 meters into the air before he fell to the ground and died. After some demons realized that they had nowhere to run, they unleashed their ferocious nature. They roared and launched self-destructive attacks on the Samsara Legion. Unfortunately, their actions were like throwing eggs at a rock in front of the Samsara Legion that was supported by the Black Tortoise Formation. Their counterattack did not cause any ripples. After the Samsara Legion galloped past, only minced meat was left on the ground. The White Horse Legion, the Formation Breaker, and the other legions were not to be outdone. They followed closely behind. Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, Gao Shun, Li Yuanba, and countless other valiant generals were like tigers in a flock of sheep. They were equipped with a full set of magic treasures. They even had immortal weapons in their hands. Among the demons who did not have the slightest bit of fighting spirit, they were simply unstoppable. Moreover, their killing efficiency was terrifyingly high. Originally, these are people who had killed countless people in the Three Kingdoms world. After continuously leveling up in the chaotic world, they had basically adapted to it. This allowed them to kill to their heart's content. Regardless of whether it was the Green Lotus Sword technique or the Primal Chaos Talisman, they were able to use them with ease. The distant enemies used the Primal Chaos Talisman, while the nearby enemies used the Green Lotus Sword technique. After more than an hour of pursuit, each of the generals had already killed at least 100,000 demons. Guan Yu, who had killed the most demons, had already broken through to the Immortal Foundation realm. This caused the other generals to be extremely jealous. They were unwilling to admit defeat and continued to kill crazily. Chapter 1331. This was what they meant when they said that the army was routed like a landslide. Under the series of attacks from the holy city of Samsara, the entire Shifter Alliance had been utterly defeated. Especially the explosion of the geomagnetic thunderstorm bomb. It was simply a disaster. In the instant of the explosion, the ground cracked as if it had been struck by lightning. Trees fell in droves, and countless Shifter Alliance soldiers were torn to shreds like paper. The ground was riddled with holes. Even the Shifter Alliance soldiers who were lucky enough to survive were heavily injured. Some even bled from their ears. Following closely behind was the Samsara Legion's collective charge. Their collective charge that could crush mountains and rivers was even more despairing. With the support of the Black Tortoise Formation, the Samsara Legion was like a tortoiseshell that couldn't be attacked. However, the Samsara Legion's killing power was terrifying. It was like a giant meat grinder wildly sweeping across the battlefield. The Samsara army, the White Horse Righteous Song, and the other main battle legions constantly emitted dazzling white light. Someone was leveling up. Zhang Fei, Li Yuanba, Sun Jian, Huang Zhong, Su Chu, and the other peerless generals were like fierce tigers descending from the mountains. No one was a match for them. The players of the Beauties Alliance didn't show any signs of weakness. Each of them was like a charming Rakshasa. Their movements weren't as earth-shattering as the generals, but they were abnormally clean and efficient. Their killing efficiency was also very high. The female players of the Beauties Alliance didn't advance rashly. They knew the dangers of the great desolate world, and that cultivation wasn't easy. They had to consolidate their advance step by step. The army at the front was like a rake combing through a net. It was inevitable that some would slip through the net. The Beauties Alliance was responsible for killing all of these fish that slipped through the net. Moreover, they very efficiently began to clean up the battlefield. It was a pity that the Shifter Alliance soldiers of the Northwest Cloud region were too poor. They basically didn't drop any decent equipment. The best equipment was only at the magic tool level. The Beauties Alliance players who were fully equipped with magic tool level equipment naturally looked down on it. However, they didn't want to waste anything. They gathered all the scrap metal together and piled it up like a small mountain on the battlefield. After all, it would be good to go back and decompose the materials. Apart from that, the goblins dropped a lot of ores and rare herbs. In the end, women were more meticulous. The spoils of war on the battlefield were divided into dozens of small mountains of various sizes. Under Yi Chen's immense divine sense, he discovered that each of these female players was doing their best, and none of them were hiding anything. There were no underhanded tricks. Looking down on them was one thing, but abiding by the rules was another. Regarding this, Yi Chen was quite pleased. The generals had already led large groups of soldiers deep into the battlefield, outflanking, cutting, and sweeping through the battlefield. After Guan Yu, Dian Wei, Su Chu, Huang Zhong, Zhao Yun, and the others all broke through to the immortal foundation realm one after another. Hence, the efficiency of their slaughter grew even higher. As for those ordinary warriors, even the weakest of them was at the Zifu realm. Many Kiliarchs and Centurions had even advanced to the Nirvana realm. In the Beauties Alliance, only a few people had advanced to the Nirvana realm. There seems to be a few leaders of the goblins over there. Where do you think you're going? Su Chu suddenly stared at a relatively luxurious group of goblins in front of him. They were luxurious because the guards of this group were all dressed neatly. They had a full set of magic equipment, and there were even a few spirit equipment. This was already considered quite luxurious among the goblins. Hence, Su Chu immediately judged that this group was most likely the leader of the goblins' allied army. One had to say that Su Chu's luck was the best. He just had to encounter this rapidly retreating goblins' allied army, the guards of the 108 leaders. This group of guards had about 10,000 people. They were protecting the 108 leaders as they fled quickly. Su Chu laughed heartily. If he could kill or capture these leaders of the goblins, then he would have made a great contribution. Immediately, Su Chu waved the immortal-grade broadsword in his hand and took the lead to charge over. The faces of the leaders of the goblins' allied army changed drastically. One of them gritted his teeth and roared, "Quickly stop him at all costs." There were only 10,000 guards behind Su Chu. If it was under normal circumstances, these leaders of the goblins' allied army might not be afraid. They might even fight Su Chu head-on. Of course, it was now too disadvantageous for them. Once they were entangled by Su Chu and the Samsara Legion caught up, then they would all be wiped out. Su Chu carried a shocking killing intent. Suddenly, the broadsword in his hand flashed with a shocking cold light. The two goblins from before were directly cut in half. Instantly, their flesh and blood became a mess. However, these goblins did not immediately collapse. They all knew that there was no way out. Now that they were forced into a corner, they had to fight with their backs against the wall. These goblins' faces were as ferocious as evil spirits. They roared crazily and charged at Su Chu. The soldiers behind Su Chu also frantically greeted them. Each of these soldiers behind Su Chu was a veteran of hundreds of battles. Each of them had a rough face and a tall stature. There was a bloody and ferocious feeling in their bones. They laughed wildly and immediately fought with these goblins. The two troops fought desperately. The sound of metal colliding, muscles tearing, bones breaking, coupled with the howls before death, suddenly turned the place into a bloody battlefield. Soon, these goblins despaired. Su Chu was leading his personal guards. Almost all of them had advanced to the Nirvana realm. This luxuriously equipped goblins could not even be compared to the beggars on the street. The troops led by Su Chu were all equipped with a full set of spiritual equipment. Even 1/3 of the elites were equipped with a full set of magical equipment. The huge gap in equipment could not be made up for at all. These goblins used all their strength and could only leave a shallow white mark on the opponent's body. On the other hand, Su Chu's troops could easily tear apart the seemingly luxurious armor of these goblins with a single slash. Under the attack of a full set of spiritual equipment and even magical equipment, it was no different from paper paste. The leaders of the 108 parties were simply scared out of their wits. After leaving behind the 10,000 guards to cover the retreat, they fled with their tails between their legs. In less than 5 breaths of time, this team of 10,000 people had been beheaded by Su Chu. Chapter 1332. He wiped the blood off his face and looked into the distance with a ferocious gaze. His eyes were as vicious as a hungry wolf's. He had already killed until his eyes turned red. Su Chu's lips curled into a sinister smile. He had already determined that this was a big fat fish. How could he let them escape so easily? Just as Su Chu was about to give chase and kill all of them, the sound of a gong rang out from the top of Samsara City's walls, signaling the retreat of the troops. Dang, dang. The crisp sound of the gong instantly spread throughout the entire battlefield. Su Chu spat on the ground unwillingly. He gritted his teeth and said, "Consider yourselves lucky. Brothers, let's return to the city." Su Shu and Guojiao were the ones who ordered the retreat. The Samsara Legion's warriors were too far away. They were more than a few thousand miles away, and the battle line was too long. It was difficult to take care of the front and back. Moreover, most of the demon race army that came to attack the city had been killed. As the saying goes, don't chase after a cornered enemy. Without the protection of the sacred city of Samsara, the Samsara Legion was not suitable to disperse and chase after the enemy. As the saying goes, an arrogant army is bound to be defeated. Moreover, the demon race was basically crippled. They had to come up with a new battle plan. Perhaps it was time for the Samsara Legion to take the initiative. The various legions of the Samsara dynasty were already on their way back. They gathered together as they were on their way back. Every warrior had a murderous aura around them. If it wasn't for the retreat, they would have killed their way to the demon race's main camp. Zhang Fei and Li Yuanba even grumbled in dissatisfaction. However, when they saw the huge amount of loot that the female players of the Beauties Alliance had cleared out, they laughed heartily. Then, they sent out a few legions to help clean up the battlefield. After all, the battlefield covered a large area. After fleeing for a while, the leaders of the 108 factions heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that no one was chasing after them. They were lucky to have survived a disaster. However, when they saw the scattered and dejected demon race troops around them, their faces darkened. The losses this time were too great. It was simply unbearable. It could be said that their vitality was greatly damaged. One of the leaders gritted his teeth and said, "We definitely can't let this go. Let's go back and think about how to get back at them." That's right. I don't believe that in our demon clan's territory, how long can he, a lone city, run rampant? Indeed, you should think about it carefully. To be able to kill a demon king in one move, what kind of cultivation base is that? In my opinion, it has to be at least at the heavenly immortal realm. We have to invite experts from outside. Let's go back first. I need to calm myself down. Today was too dangerous. In the throne room of the sacred city of Samsara, Yi Chun sat on the dragon throne. Looking at the spirits of the civil and military officials on both sides, he nodded with satisfaction. Compared to the last siege, they had basically all adapted to the battle rhythm of the untainted world. The arrangements for this battle were also quite appropriate. Regardless of whether it was the strategists or the valiant generals, they all complemented each other well. They defeated the invading demon clan with the highest efficiency, especially the people of Su Shu and Guojia. Now, the demon clan had buried the geomagnetic lightning bombs in their path of retreat, which brought about a devastating blow to the demon clan and almost put an end to this battle. However, Yichen also realized that the number of soldiers on his side was indeed too small. The various legions added up to millions of soldiers. In the Three Kingdoms world, it was indeed enough. However, the untainted world was boundless. It was not enough to just settle a region. The number of Demon Clan's people in these two attacks was actually close to the 200 million mark. This was also because the Samsara Legion had the Samsara city to rely on and could wait for the enemy to arrive. They had an absolute advantage and an overwhelming advantage in terms of equipment. If they encountered the Demon Clan's troops in the wild, the outcome would be uncertain, let alone the elite troops of the other races in the untainted world. Yichen slightly closed his eyes, deep in thought. The expansion of the army was not urgent for the time being. It was better to take over the huge territory of the northwest Yinzhou first. Then, he gently flicked his finger, and a huge, realistic map suddenly condensed in the air above the throne room. This was also the map that Yi Chun condensed into an exquisite map of tens of millions of miles with his powerful divine sense. The cultural relics ministers were all people who had experienced hundreds of battles. Naturally, they could understand the meaning of this map at a glance. Everyone's eyes were shining brightly, especially those valiant generals who clenched their fists. They knew very well that Yi Chen's map meant that an all-out war had begun. Then, the bright spots on the map flickered one after another, as if the map was dotted with stars. Yi Chun pointed to the brightest 108 spots and said, "This is the location of the 108 invading forces. Now that they are completely frightened, I want you to set out immediately and destroy them while they're still in a state of shock. You can discuss the specific battle plan among yourselves." Then, Yi Chen's figure flashed and disappeared. As the emperor of the Samsara dynasty, naturally, Yi Chen did not need to do everything in person. These top counselors and valiant generals were enough, and Yi Chen believed that this was just a small test. It was too easy for top counselors like Su Shu and Guojia, who were always scheming all kinds of schemes. Guojia, Su Shu, Jia Su, and the others immediately began to study. They first hypothesized several strategic plans, but in the end, all of them were overturned. What they needed to do was to flatten all the forces of the Demon Clan as quickly as possible. And this time, they needed to grow and improve in the war. Finally, they decided to divide into three groups. Dian Wei, Su Chu, Sun Jian, Sun Su, and the others led the Samsara Legion as one group. Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the others led the White Horse Righteous followers as one group. Zhang Liao, Gao Shun, Li Yuanba, and the others led the rank-breaking camp as one group. They divided into three groups and went in three different directions to destroy the 108 forces. Huang Zhong and the others led one group to provide support to the other groups at any time. Speed was the most important thing in war. There was no time to lose. When everything was arranged properly, the city gates were opened and all the troops set out with rumbling footsteps. Chapter 1333. While Yi Chen's subordinates were busy here, Yi Chun went straight to the harem. His purpose was simple. He wanted to appease Zhao Yu and the others. Just now, he wanted Zhao Yu, Empress Hari, Nana, and the other women to go. They had been standing on the city wall attacking the shifter troops, and Yi Chun didn't let them leave the city. Empress Hari, Nana, and the others knew that Yi Chun was concerned about them, but they still felt a little emotional. Others were fine, but Empress Hari had the strength of a human immortal. Yi Chen's main purpose was to appease her. It couldn't be helped. One had to know that if Ruthless became angry, the entire Northwest Cloud region will be turned upside down by her. At that time, the entire region would be in ruins. What was the point of Yichun coming here then? After a round of coaxing, the women finally calmed down. The players from the Beauties Alliance didn't have such concerns. They followed the Samsara Legion and set off as well. They didn't need to fight head-on. What the Beauties Alliance players needed to do was to help the Samsara Legion kill the Shifter survivors and clean up the battlefield. Dangi Mountain was about 1,000,000 miles away from Samsara and the Holy City. After escaping to this place, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. The defeated soldiers under their command had already been dismissed and returned to their respective places, while the leaders of the 108 parties stayed together on Dang-in Mountain to catch their breath and suppress their shock. At this moment, the conference hall of Dang-in Mountain was bustling with noise. There were all kinds of delicious wine and delicacies. Some seductive banshees were dancing in the center of the hall. These banshees were all scantily clad, their bodies enchanting, and their eyebrows were seductive. This allowed the demon leaders, who were mentally and physically exhausted, to relax a little. Some of the demon leaders even tripped a female demon to the ground and began to make love. The other demon leaders didn't mind, as if they were already used to it. The leader of Dang-in Mountain naturally sat on the main seat. After gulping down a bowl of strong liquor, he slammed the bowl on the table and said, "Everyone, this time we've made a big mistake. What do you think we should do next? Where are we going to find a Yao immortal that can defeat a celestial immortal? That's the problem. As long as we can find more than 2 demonic immortal powerhouses, we can definitely kill all the powerhouses hiding in the human cities. Don't think about only dealing with that human expert. Don't forget that when we were fighting, the human race had endless means. First, we need to figure out what that thing that exploded inexplicably when we were retreating was. More than 10 million men have died to that thing. That's right. These damn humans are too cunning. They actually hid so many magic treasure bows and arrows. Who knows if they have other trump cards? That's right. We also need to figure out how many of those top-grade talismans they tied to their bows and arrows are left. The dark iron ores our men are carrying are not useful at all. Under the explosion of those talismans, they're like paper. One of the leaders of the demon clan had emptied 2 jars of strong liquor in front of him. His face was flushed red as he shook his head and said, "It was a tragedy. It was simply a tragedy in the human world. Under that shocking explosion, the bodies of our demon clan men were torn apart like rags. As long as I close my eyes now, I seem to be able to hear that hair-raising explosion. Now, I seem to be able to hear it again." Another demon leader immediately frowned and said, "You're hallucinating because you drank too much." "I didn't drink too much. Why am I hallucinating too? I also seem to hear that familiar explosion." One of the leaders laughed out loud and said, "Haha, in my opinion, both of you are hallucinating because you drank too much. How can you still hear that explosion? Don't tell me those humans dare to come here and kill us?" The leader of Dang-in Mountain immediately raised his eyebrows and pricked up his ears to listen. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically. He slammed the table and stood up, roaring loudly, "Stop drinking, all of you. That's not an illusion. There really is an explosion near my Dang-in Mountain." At this moment, a small demon covered in blood rushed in and knelt on the ground. He cried and said, "My lords, it's not good. The enemy is coming. The attack is quite fierce. Our brothers can't hold on anymore. They have already broken through the mountain gate and are coming here." What? All the demon leaders turned pale with fright. They stood up abruptly and lost their composure. The wine and delicacies in front of them immediately scattered on the ground. Some of the demon leaders said in a daze, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. How can those humans have the courage to take the initiative to attack? It must be a joke." Right at this moment, an earth-shattering explosion came from outside. The 2 bronze gates of the council hall were directly broken from the outside. Then, Dianwei and Su Chu, 2 figures as strong as hills, rushed out. The demon leader closest to the gate didn't even have time to react before his head was smashed into pieces by Su Chu's stick. Red and white matter splashed on the ground. A gust of wind blew in through the bronze gate that Dianwei had broken through. A shrill cry of killing also reached the ears of all the demon leaders. The entire Dang En Mountain was filled with the sound of killing and howling. The human team had really come. The leader of Dang En Mountain was livid. He roared ferociously, "Damn you humans! How dare you come to my Dang En Mountain? Do you really think that we demons are easy to bully? Today, I'll make sure you don't leave." Then, the leader of Dang En Mountain took out a mace that weighed thousands of kilograms and pounced on Dianwei with a gust of wind. Dianwei laughed wildly. He raised the immortal weapon dark iron double halberds and smashed them. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The thick mace in the hands of the leader of Dang En Mountain was shattered. The fragments splashed in all directions. Many of the demon leaders were beaten until they cried out strangely. However, Dianwei didn't stop. He moved forward quickly and suddenly attacked with a shrill sound of wind. Chapter 1334. Dianwei's speed was as fast as lightning. He and Su Chu were like two devil gods. They killed the other leaders in the conference hall of Dang En Mountain cleanly, tearing a deep gully in the ground. Then, the other Samsara Legion also rushed out. The generals of the Samsara dynasty all had one thing in common. Their movements were fierce and overbearing, fast and decisive. Every attack was accurate and fierce, with a thunderous roar, which was extremely terrifying. The leader of Dang En Mountain was caught off guard and was hit on the head by Dianwei. At that moment, the leader of Dang En Mountain exploded and turned into a cloud of blood mist. Dianwei laughed and said, "You animals are really considerate. You're afraid that I'll have to run around. So all the leaders have gathered here, right? All of you can stay here. Today, none of you can leave." Su Chu laughed and said, "Don't kill all of them, Dian. Leave a few for me." As he spoke, Su Chu took a step forward. His body charged forward like a ghost and appeared in front of a leader in an instant. Su Chu's body carried a terrifying vitality of spiritual power. The immortal artifact, level broadsword in his hand, carried a sharp force as it directly rushed forward. On the other hand, the leader's legs were trembling. He gripped the weapon in his hand tightly, but he didn't have the slightest intention to fight. He only wanted to leave as soon as possible. In the previous clash, several cracks had appeared on his weapon. Even the web between his thumb and forefinger had been shattered. Blood dripped down from his hand to the ground and seeped into the soil. Outside the conference hall, the soldiers of the Samsara Legion killed the demons of Dang En Mountain easily. All the demons of Dang En Mountain probably did not expect the human tribe's counterattack to come so quickly. The entire Dang En Mountain was completely out of luck. There were unbridled energies everywhere. The Samsara Legion's morale was like a rainbow as they tore through the sky with a biting cold killing intent. The spirit weapons in their hands emitted strands of light. Their bodies were bathed in blood as if they were about to boil. On their way forward, even the huge rocks weighing thousands of kilograms were mercilessly chopped into pieces. The demon tribe's corpses were everywhere. In less than an hour, all the demons of Dang En Mountain were slaughtered. Dang En Mountain was only a small part of it. In another base camp of the demon tribe 300,000 miles away from Dang En Mountain, suddenly, the ground shook violently as if 10,000 prehistoric dinosaurs were running at the same time. All the demons were extremely shocked. They looked into the distance and saw a black army of the human tribe rushing over in an instant. White tiger battle formation. In an instant, a huge white tiger appeared in the sky above the human tribe. It was White Horse Eat Sung who activated the white tiger battle formation. They moved extremely quickly, crossing several hundred meters in the blink of an eye. Everyone gathered their power together, and a white tiger that was several thousand meters long lunged out with an extremely powerful presence. It left behind a series of thunderous booms in the air as it lunged over with an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything. Boom! With a loud bang, the heaven and earth yuan qi fluctuated like a wave, making a loud noise. Then, The mountain gate of the demon race's base camp shattered with a loud bang. This power was simply earth-shattering. The leader of the demon tribe's base camp had not returned yet. The deputy leader who was in charge of this place stood out and roared in panic. "Don't panic. It's just the human tribe. All demons, pick up your weapons. I will attack and kill all these invaders." As soon as the deputy leader's voice fell, he instantly felt a pair of cold and violent eyes locking onto him. Then, Zhang Fei roared and suddenly rushed out. All the qi and blood in Zhang Fei's body were ignited. He was like a prehistoric monster. He rampaged through the demon tribe's army. The 8-feet-long snake spear in his hand was like a lightning of death. These demons were simply killed when they came into contact with it. Zhang Fei's steps were very simple. There was not much fancy concealment. Just like that, he swept through everything. Zhang Fei's target was very clear. It was the deputy leader of the demon tribe's base camp. When the deputy leader saw Zhang Fei's vigor, he was immediately stunned. He did not forget to incite the other demons to rush forward and die. Meanwhile, he quietly turned around and fled frantically. How could Zhang Fei let him escape? After a crazy roar, his eyes widened. He suddenly threw out the 8-feet-long snake spear in his hand. The 8-feet-long snake spear turned into a black light like lightning. It tore the air apart and emitted a scorching heat. Like a thunderbolt, it instantly arrived at the back of the demon tribe's leader. Then, with a loud bang, a basin-sized hole appeared in his chest. The demon tribe's leader did not make any sound. Just like that, he fell to the ground with lifeless eyes and died. The other soldiers of the White Horse Righteous Army were the same. Those who were not of the same race were not of the same heart. There was no need to show mercy to these demons. With cold and cruel expressions, they killed mercilessly in the demon tribe's base camp. Their movements were even faster. In less than a quarter of an hour, the entire demon tribe's base camp was slaughtered. Zhao Yun shook off the blood on his silver spear and shouted coldly, "Clean up the battlefield immediately and then rush to the next place." With a bloodthirsty smile, Zhang Fei laughed and said, "This battle was fun. We have to hurry up. Otherwise, Dian Wei and Su Chu, those two idiots will kill more than us. That would be too embarrassing." At this moment, a cold light suddenly flashed in Zhao Yun's eyes. He discovered that behind the demon race's base camp, on a cliff, there was a sneaky figure that was fleeing quickly. This was also a leader of the demon tribe. However, he was gifted with an extremely excellent ability to conceal his aura. Therefore, he wanted to escape without anyone noticing. Unfortunately, he was discovered by Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun immediately took out the immortal bow and arrow from his back. The bow bent like a full moon. Then a black arrow shot out into the air. Like a falling meteor, it directly broke through the void and came out from the other side. It directly nailed the demon tribe's leader to the cliff. Chapter 1335. After a rain of blood, the demon clan leader breathed his last. At this time, the Samsara Corps had also cleared out the entire Dangyin Mountain. The eyes of these soldiers were filled with killing intent and ferocious light. They held sharp weapons in their hands and carefully searched the area to make sure there were no survivors. Only then did they relax. Wherever they went, they left bloody footprints one after another. The entire Dangyin Mountain was already flowing with blood. None of the leaders of the 108 forces managed to escape. They were all killed by Dian Wei and Su Chu. Their heads were chopped off, strung together, and tied to a pole. Then, Dian Wei and Su Chu called for all the soldiers of the Samsara Legion to assemble and rush to the next location. The Samsara Legion moved so quickly that they did not leave any time for the Demon Clan to react. They started to pursue and kill the Demon Clan as soon as the battle ended. Even the surviving soldiers of the Demon Clan who managed to escape were killed by the Samsara Legion and other human troops before they could return to their base camp. In the Demon Clan's base camp, most of the Demon Clan were still looking forward to the Demon Clan's conquest of the Human Clan cities and what kind of spoils they could bring back. However, what they were waiting for was the sharp swords of the Samsara Legion. The Samsara Legion and other major legions moved too quickly. The Demon Clan's base camp was too sparsely populated, and the speed of information transmission was too slow. Most of the time, after the Samsara Legion had wiped out the Demon Clan's base camp, the news from afar had not yet arrived. The biggest weakness of the Samsara Legion was that they were too few in number and had poor mobility. It often took them 1 or even 2 days to travel from one Demon Clan's base camp to the next. However, their operation was very smooth. Wherever they went, all the Demon Clan was slaughtered. There were about 10 million Demon Clan members left in each base camp. However, the Shifter race did not have any decent experts. In addition, the Samsara Legion was equipped with insane equipment. In addition, they were all veterans who had been through hundreds of battles. Killing had already become an art. With this kind of support, it was not difficult to challenge someone a higher level. As Su Shu, Guijia, and the others had said, they had been nurturing themselves with battles along the way. Not only had they obtained a huge amount of spoils, but their cultivation had also improved. This time, the ones who had improved the fastest were Dian Wei and Su Chu. Dian Wei and Su Chu were already at the peak of Immortal Foundation. After this battle, they would definitely be able to break through to the Divine Martial Realm. Compared to the Purple Mansion Realm, when he had just broken through to the Great Desolate World, he had already crossed several large realms. As for the warriors of the Samsara Legion, some of them had already stepped into the Nirvana realm. The increase in strength brought about an explosive increase in combat strength. Every warrior was even addicted to killing. However, they did not kill all the Shifter race. As for the Shifter race who had not yet reached adulthood, they spared their lives. After all, the Samsara dynasty controlled such a large area. It was inevitable that they did not have enough manpower. They still needed some slaves. The Shifter race who had not yet reached adulthood were a better choice. If not for the lack of manpower, they might have captured more slaves. However, it was too tiring to look after the adult slaves. Thus, they might as well just kill them. The entire Northwest Cloud region was bathed in blood. All the Shifter race had experienced a nightmarish experience. The Samsara dynasty used their weapons to announce their arrival to the Great Desolate World. In a total of 7 days, the various legions of the Samsara dynasty swept through the entire Northwest Cloud region. Except for the Shifter race who was lucky enough to escape. Almost all of them were killed. From then on, the Northwest Cloud region, with a radius of tens of millions of miles, became the territory of the Samsara dynasty. At this moment, a system announcement refreshed the World Channel. Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first to conquer a region in the Great Desolate World. The reward is 100,000 pieces of Supreme Immortal Stones and 1 million pieces of high-grade Immortal Stones. Instantly, all the players in the beginner's area of the 3 kingdoms were shocked. What's going on? How many days has it been? How did Yi Chun conquer a region in the Great Desolate World? That's right. Yi Chun didn't say anything in the World Channel. What's going on in the Great Desolate World? I just want to know how big a region in the Great Desolate World is. Is it similar to the 3 kingdoms? I can't take it anymore. I have to cultivate as hard as I can. I want to ascend to the Great Desolate World too. Wait for me, God Yi. I'm going to ride on his coattails. Yi Chun could only laugh at all of this. 7 days later, the Samsara Legion, the White Horse Righteous Song, and the other legions returned to the Samsara dynasty. However, their spoils of war were piled up in the huge square in front of the Golden Temple in the sacred city of Samsara. That was just a drop in the ocean. What was more significant to them was that the Samsara dynasty had conquered the Northwest Cloud region. Yi Chun had already seen that the Northwest Cloud region was rich in mineral resources. Next, they could send all the skilled craftsmen and caravans of the Samsara dynasty to the Northwest Cloud region to mine the mineral resources. The 10 refiners had recently brought out 10,000 apprentices from a small world. The skills of these apprentices were at least half as good as the refiners. At the very least, they had no problem refining ores and forging weapons below the level of spirit tools. The ordinary people of the Samsara dynasty also moved to the Northwest Cloud region. At this time, There was almost no threat to them in the northwest cloud region. The Samsara Legion and other legions were all stationed in various places. When they returned to the Samsara dynasty, Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Su Chu, Huang Zhong, and other generals had all advanced to the god martial arts realm. With such cultivation and their equipment, they could already deal with ordinary demon kings. That was to say, unless they faced a demon immortal opponent directly, the entire northwest cloud region would be safe. Under the management of the top strategists and civil officials, the Samsara dynasty slowly expanded in an orderly manner. Every day, countless minerals were sent back to the sacred city of Samsara, including rare dark iron veins, mica veins, mithril veins, purple gold veins, and so on. After the initial refining, these minerals were all stored in Yi Chen's small world. The time difference between the small world and the real world was too large. After half a month in the real world, the ordinary soldiers of the Samsara Legion and other legions had all changed into magic weapon sets. Some of the centurions, Kiliarchs, and outstanding elite soldiers even had immortal weapon sets in their hands. After the entire Samsara dynasty changed their equipment, the overall strength of the Samsara dynasty rose to a huge level. Yichen was also very pleased. No one expected that the sacred city of Samsara would appear in the territory of the demon tribe in the northwest cloud region. This was simply a holy place for leveling up. That was why the overall strength of the Samsara Legion had increased so rapidly. Seeing that the Samsara dynasty had completely gained a foothold here, Yichen also had the idea of leaving the Samsara dynasty and going to the untainted land for adventure. After all, in his mind, he clearly recorded the origins of all the heavenly treasures and the important fated chances. Moreover, in the entire untainted land game, only his side had ascended first. Now that he was reborn, he would not leave these heavenly treasures to others. Yi Chen's enormous divine sense covered his entire territory. When he saw all the generals who were conscientiously patrolling the border, he nodded with satisfaction. This time, he went out to look for fated chances for them. One day, he would raise their root bones to the level of sage to be. Chapter 1336. After this battle, the Samsara dynasty had established a firm foothold in the northwest cloud prefecture. The monster cultivators and individual cultivators outside the northwest cloud prefecture had also heard that there was a new overlord in the northwest cloud prefecture, the Samsara dynasty. There were also some monster kings who wanted to take advantage of the Samsara dynasty's territory. Unsurprisingly, they were all killed by Yi Chen's spear, and their heads were hung on the border of the northwest cloud prefecture. Since then, those monster tribes with ulterior motives had not dared to cross the line. What made Yi Chen happier was that Empress Hari and Nana had also successfully reached the fairy immortal realm. Empress Hari was indeed worthy of being called Empress Hari. She had been playing and sleeping all day, but her cultivation had soared like a rocket. It was also good that with Empress Hari in the Samsara city, Yi Chen could leave without worries. Yi Chen had been delayed for a long time. He didn't hesitate any longer. After arranging everything in the Samsara dynasty, he set off on his journey alone. After Yi Chen left, Empress Hari and Nana said helplessly, "Really, why is my husband the only one who can leave?" Zhao Yu smiled and comforted her. "Don't be angry. Due to the restriction of the rules, no one can leave the Cloud Prefecture except His Majesty. Let's wait a little longer." Nana leaned on Zhao Yu and said weakly, "That's the only way." Yi Chen's current strength was not enough to run amok in the untainted world, but it was no problem for him to protect himself. This time, he left to improve his strength. In his previous life, he remembered that it was time to collect those heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Yi Chen's target this time was the Sunset Mountains, hundreds of millions of miles away from the Northwest Cloud Prefecture. In the Sunset Mountains, there is a kind of heavenly materials and earthly treasure that could prolong one's life, the level 9 purple Ganoderma. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures that could prolong one's life were rare in the untainted world, but in this period, immortals' lives were not limited. Unless they were killed by others, they would live as long as the heavens and the earth. Therefore, no one cared about these heavenly treasures that could prolong one's life. To these immortals, they were of little value. However, after a period of time, when the plot of the great desolate world began, the world placed restrictions on the lives of these cultivators. Even a perfected golden immortal would only live for a little more than 100,000 years. As for celestial immortals, it would only take a mere 10,000 years. At this time, the preciousness of heavenly treasures that could prolong one's life was demonstrated. In Yi Chen's memory, when a ninth-grade purple Lingji mushroom appeared in the setting sun mountain range, it caused a huge commotion. At that time, more than 300 golden immortals were fighting there. More than 200 gold immortals had died in the setting sun mountain range. It could be said to be quite tragic. The ninth-grade purple Ganoderma had a total of 9 leaves, and each leaf could extend one's lifespan by 10,000 years. That was why these gold immortals were so crazy. However, that place should still be a pure land, and no one would notice it. Yi Chen was going to the setting sun mountain range to get the ninth-grade purple Ganoderma in advance. The great desolate world was no different from his previous life. However, when Yi Chen traveled in the great desolate world again, his mood was very different. He would also stop to admire the beautiful scenery of the axe god's work. In his previous life, Yi Chen was busy running around for his own survival every day, and he had no time to stop and admire it. In this life, he had a completely different encounter from his previous life. Not only could his cultivation break through to the golden immortal realm at any time, but he also had a huge reincarnation dynasty. Just like that, Yi Chen traveled all the way. After half a month, he entered the setting Sun Mountain Range. In the setting Sun Mountain Range, the old vines were thick and the ancient trees towered into the sky. There were tiger roars and ape cries everywhere. It was a primitive scene. Until now, there had never been a trace of humans here. The setting Sun Mountain Range was a place where demonic beasts ran rampant. Here, Yi Chen was attacked by some demonic beasts, but they were easily dealt with by him. Godslayer's weapon for demon ancestor Luo Ho was too conspicuous. Yi Chen simply put it away and only hung the reincarnation sword on his waist as an ordinary weapon. When Yi Chen casually killed a 3-eyed demonic leopard blocking his way with a sword light, he suddenly felt a gust of wind in his face. His figure retreated like a ghost. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and a huge rock the size of a small house fell on the place where he was originally standing. Yi Chen immediately frowned. To be able to evade his mental power and attack him, it seemed that the opponent's cultivation was not weak. At this moment, the ground shook violently. Then, the towering trees on both sides of the wild, ancient forest parted, and a giant black gorilla of about 10 feet in height stood out. This giant black gorilla had black fur that was as smooth as silk. It was so black that it was translucent. The black gorilla's body was emitting a demonic, immortal-level pressure. The black gorilla's voice sounded like muffled thunder. "Damned human, you killed so many of my subordinates just now? Tell me, how do you want to die?" Yi Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. After coming to the wild ancient world, this was the first time he saw a demonic immortal-level monster. In his previous life, he had never heard of such a black gorilla in the setting Sun Mountain Range. It should have been killed by someone or left. He sneered and said, "I've never killed the innocent. Your subordinates took the initiative to attack me. Naturally, they had their own way to die. If you want to avenge them, feel free to come over. Damned human, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The giant black gorilla suddenly pounded its chest with both hands and let out a roar that shook the sky. It looked incomparably ferocious. The giant black gorilla's body was originally more than 10 meters tall, and now it was more than 3 times taller. The 30-meter giant black gorilla was as tall as a 10-story building. Then, the giant black gorilla let out a crazy roar. Its voice was like a sonic boom, and even the air was about to explode. Finally, a terrifying energy covered the sky and covered the earth, and the momentum was extremely shocking. The giant black gorilla had just kicked up a gust of wind when it pounced on him. This made Yi Chun feel as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him out of nowhere, making it hard for him to breathe. As expected of a demonic immortal level monster, it was different from those demonic kings. Yi Chun narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed. Chapter 1337. Soon after, Yi Chun grabbed the samsara sword in his hand. Then, a green sword light descended from the sky. The sword chi was biting cold. It was like a silver radiance. It carried an incomparably baleful aura. This sword almost tore the air apart. That silver sword light directly chopped towards the head of the Black King Kong. Even the air shook violently. It seemed as if the sky would be split into two halves by Yi Chun's sword. The Black King Kong clearly sensed the danger brought by this sword. A trace of fear flashed through its huge eyes. Then it quickly retreated. Even so, Yi Chun's samsara sword still left a huge wound on the shoulder of the Black King Kong. The wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. Blood sprayed out from the wound as if it was free of charge. It was obvious that Black King Kong was in unbearable pain. He raised his head and let out a long and loud roar. Then the muscles on his body started to wriggle, and the 2-meter-long wound on his body started to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if he had never been injured at all. Yi Chun narrowed his eyes. It seemed that this Black King Kong was not easy to deal with. At least, its healing ability was somewhat abnormal. The Black King Kong once again pounced towards Yi Chun. A violent rumbling sound was heard from the ground. It was as if an ancient giant beast was advancing. The Black King Kong covered a distance of more than 10 feet with a single step. The devil aura on its body overflowed in all directions. Then, its huge fist, which was as big as a water tank, suddenly smashed towards Yi Chun. This punch carried with it a sharp wind pressure. Its astonishing aura caused even the air to emit a violent rumbling sound. Yi Chun had a feeling that this punch of Black King Kong's could create a crater of more than 100 feet in diameter on ground. Boundless devil energy lingered on the surface of Black King Kong's fist, and it issued crashing sound just like the waves of the sea. His fist seemed indestructible. In fact, it was earth-shattering. In fact, it seemed as if no one could stop the mighty might of his fist. Yi Chun immediately brandished the samsara sword and engaged in battle with the Black King Kong. For a moment, huge waves of chi unceasingly spread in all directions. A gust of violent wind wreaked havoc on the ground within a radius of dozens of miles like a heavy downpour. Those huge trees that were as thick as water tanks were torn to pieces. Even those huge rocks were turned into powder. From this, one could see how fierce the battle between Yi Chun and the Black King Kong was. Yi Feng's samsara sword carried a sharp radiance. It continuously bombarded the Black King Kong. A gust of violent wind blew across the face. It was as if a silver moonlight had traversed across the vast sky. The Black King Kong also knew how powerful the samsara sword in Yi Chun's hand was. Suddenly, he sensed a silver light piercing towards his eye at lightning speed. For a moment, he felt the great terror of life and death. Then, the Black King Kong tried his best to twist his body. However, Yi Chun's speed was too fast. The samsara sword in his hand directly pierced into his right eye. The imposing aura of the samsara sword suddenly erupted. The Black King Kong's lantern-sized golden pupil was directly shattered into pieces. The Black King Kong almost went crazy. He let out a mournful roar. He violently rolled on the ground. Wherever he went, trees would collapse. Grass and trees would fly in all directions. He was in extreme pain. Of course, Yi Chun wouldn't let go of this opportunity. His body quickly rushed to the side of the Black King Kong like a ghost. The samsara sword in his hand continuously flew out with a violent rumbling sound. Each sword strike carried a 1-meter-long silver sword aura. Yi Chun's eyes were ice-cold at this time. His body was surging with murderous aura. The Black King Kong also sensed the great danger. He endured the severe pain and quickly stood up from the ground. The demonic aura on his body surged and unceasingly resisted Yi Chen's attacks. The air was violently distorted. Bursts of violent explosions were heard. A terrifying power spread in all directions. At this time, the Black King Kong suddenly left behind an afterimage. Thousands of Black King Kong appeared behind him. They were like a black cloud pressing down on the sky. They directly surrounded Yi Chen. Even the sky was filled with the shadows of the Black King Kong. Yi Chen keenly noticed that each Black King Kong was real. Each of them had 30% of the strength of a real Black King Kong. They weren't very strong. However, they couldn't resist too many of them. These Black King Kong vaguely formed a powerful battle array. It seemed as if they had sealed off the surrounding void to prevent Yi Chen from escaping. Yi Chen sneered in his heart. It seemed that the Black King Kong hated him to the core. He wanted to kill him no matter what. However, there was nothing to say about such a beast. It was only a matter of life and death. The Samsara sword in his hand emitted 10,000 bright rays of light. Yi Chen was neither servile nor overbearing. However, he was still calm and free even though he was surrounded. His speed was extremely fast. Those Black King Kong couldn't even catch a shadow. Yi Chen was as agile as a butterfly. He jumped back and forth in the encirclement. Every sword strike of Yi Chen could take away the life of a Black King Kong's doppelganger. Yi Chen brandished the Samsara sword in his hand. It brought about an astonishing cold light. The sword energy swept out in all directions. Boulders were shattered, and trees were toppled over. Even a void was faintly cut open. The battle array was very powerful. However, Yi Chen's strength was too strong. He had already stood firmly at the peak of the celestial immortal realm. He was only one step away from breaking through to the golden immortal realm. He had too many supreme treasures with him. Therefore, the influence of those doppelganger didn't have any effect on Yi Chen. The Black King Kong could only watch helplessly as Yi Chen killed those doppelganger one after another. It took him a lot of effort to kill all of these Black King Kong's doppelganger. Yi Chen also heaved a long sigh. This Black King Kong really had some tricks up his sleeve. There were at least 100,000 doppelganger. They might be able to cause some trouble to him if they were allowed to grow up in the future. However, they were far from enough now. After Yi Chen killed all the doppelganger of the Black King Kong, the main body of the Black King Kong roared and threw itself at him once again. However, something unexpected happened again. Suddenly, a tiny strand of black hair shot out from King Kong's body. It wouldn't have mattered if Yi Chen didn't pay attention to it. However, Yi Chen noticed that this wasn't a normal strand of hair, but a black poisonous snake. Moreover, the aura of this venomous snake had been completely restrained. However, under the gaze of Yi Chen's fiery golden eyes, its true form was immediately revealed. Obviously, this was also a strange venomous snake of demon immortal realm. The speed of this venomous snake was extremely fast. It was as fast as lightning. In just a blink of an eye, it had thrown itself at Yi Chen's neck. Unexpectedly, the huge Black King Kong opened its big mouth and revealed a proud smile. Obviously, by relying on this trick, the two of them had killed many enemies with higher cultivation bases than them. Chapter 1338. A cold smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. It was just a small trick, and he wanted to deal with him. This bastard really thought too much. Then Yi Chen suddenly opened his mouth, and a terrifying suction force came out. The divine ability of swallow the heavens and devour the earth was activated. It was as if a terrifying black hole had opened, and the little black snake's speed suddenly increased. This was not done by itself. Before it could even react, Yi Chen had swallowed it whole. Then, Yi Chen had refined it. Ding dong. Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing a demonic immortal level boss for the first time. Special reward: 10,000 innate attribute points, 1,000 top-grade immortal stones, and 20,000 top-grade immortal stones. This system prompt was not only seen by Yi Chen, but also by the whole world channel. The chimpanzee was dumbfounded. Perhaps it had never dreamed of encountering such a situation. The demonic, immortal-level venomous snake was swallowed by this guy in one gulp. What kind of monster was he? The chimpanzee's remaining eye quickly turned around, and then, without caring about its image, it knelt on the ground with a plop. Its hands were clasped in front of it, and its huge head was kowtowing so hard that even the ground was shaking violently. Immortal, the ignorant are not guilty. I was too reckless just now. Please spare my life. Yichen was a little amused. This chimpanzee was also cunning. It immediately kowtowed and begged for mercy when it saw that the situation was not good. Yichen pointed his sword and said coldly to the chimpanzee, "I don't want to kill any more today. If you know what's good for you, get out of here quickly. Otherwise, I'll kill you too." Although the chimpanzee was very unwilling, it still roared and quickly turned around to leave. Although Black King Kong had left, Yichen's vigilance was completely raised. He was walking in the untainted land in search of those heaven and earth treasures that had not yet appeared. He did not expect to encounter danger just as he arrived at the Sunset Mountains. The cooperation between Black King Kong and Black Viper was truly impossible to guard against. If not for the fact that he had so many trump cards, he would have fallen into their trap if he wasn't careful. Therefore, he had to be even more cautious from now on. He only knew that the Grade 9 Purple Lingji was in the Setting Sun Mountain range, but Yichen wasn't very clear about its exact location. The Setting Sun Mountain range was boundless, spanning at least tens of millions of square kilometers. Moreover, there were various branches of various sizes and hidden caves. There were also many terrifying Yao cultivators among them. There were also quite a number of golden immortals. There might even be Daluo Jinxian. Yichen quietly released his divine sense and began to search the entire Sunset Mountain range. Finally, he found it on top of a cliff. So, Yichen's figure flashed and crossed the space before appearing in the void. Immediately, he found a 9th grade purple Ganoderma that was emitting a bright light in front of him. Flowing lights and vibrant colors overflowed as purple clouds rose. Every leaf of this Grade 9 purple Ganoderma was sparkling and translucent like a purple crystal. A vigorous life essence greeted him head-on. Yichen had already memorized the information about the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma by heart. This Grade 9 purple Ganoderma would only grow one leaf every 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, it would mature, and then another leaf would grow. Only when it grew 9 leaves would it be considered completely mature. Now, the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma in front of Yichen had just grown 8 leaves. Obviously, it wasn't mature yet. Yichen smiled faintly. This wasn't a problem for him at all, because he could move this Grade 9 purple Ganoderma into his miniature world. There was an environment that was very suitable for the growth of the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma. Yichen rubbed his hands with satisfaction. Now that he had obtained the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma, it meant that he had gained another 100,000 years of lifespan. The harvest this time was really great. At the same time, Yichen also felt extremely lucky. This was also because he had the advantage of being reborn. Otherwise, who would have thought that this seemingly ordinary Grade 9 purple Ganoderma would have such heaven-defying effects? Now, no one was interested in the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma. But when the story of the Great Desolate Era unfolded, even those Daluo Jinxian and quasi-sages would be tempted. It was said that this Grade 9 purple Ganoderma was obtained by a golden immortal. He went through untold hardships to fight his way out of the encirclement. Later on, it was purchased by a quasi-sage at a high price. After Yichen moved the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma into his miniature world, he suddenly felt his entire body shake. The rich life essence emitted by the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma made Yichen feel as if he had become much younger. It was just that the Grade 9 purple Ganoderma wasn't fully mature yet. Yichen wasn't in a hurry to enjoy it. However, the danger he encountered here made Yichen realize that the cultivation of the celestial immortal realm was no longer enough for him to continue. It was too dangerous. Therefore, Yi Chen used up all his remaining attribute points here and directly broke through to the golden immortal realm. At this moment, the light in the sky suddenly darkened rapidly. A huge black cloud covered the entire Sunset Mountains. These black clouds were getting lower and lower. Immortal thunderbolts were constantly rolling inside. These clouds were like monsters that had their fill of blood. They faintly revealed traces of red light, as if they were choosing to devour people. An indescribable sense of terror enveloped the entire Sunset Mountain range. There were tens of millions of demonic beasts. When the golden immortal thunder tribulation arrived, all the demonic beasts in the Sunset Mountains were trembling with fear. They were like frightened little quails. They hid in their nests and shivered. They covered their heads with their buttocks facing outside, afraid that the terrifying thunderbolts were coming for them. After being in the Sunset Mountains for so long, they had never encountered such terrifying thunderbolts. Although some demonic beasts would have terrifying thunder tribulations when they broke through to the human immortal realm or when the ground collapsed, it was nothing compared to the golden immortal tribulation today. All the demonic beasts had a feeling that if they were to resist it, they would inevitably be turned into ashes. As the person involved, Yi Chen wasn't nervous at all. He was even a little worried that these thunderbolts weren't powerful enough. Anyway, he had the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction. No matter how much thunderbolts there were, he wasn't afraid. The Black Lotus of Destruction had just given birth to a trace of spiritual intelligence. It was the moment when it lacked the nourishment of these thunder tribulations. Rumble! A terrifying sound of thunder resounded in the sky. The lightning that had been brewing for a long time had finally descended. The first batch of lightning was silver in color and was as thick as a bucket. It directly struck towards Yi Chen. There was no need for Yi Chen to control them personally. The golden lotus of destruction in his body operated spontaneously, forming a huge black lotus throne about 10 acres in size above his head. This huge black lotus throne seemed to be able to absorb all the light. The moment it appeared, even the void became a little distorted. Chapter 1339. When the first batch of silver lightning struck down, it was all absorbed by the Black Lotus platform without leaving a single trace behind. It seemed that Yi Chen's change had angered the thunder tribulation clouds in the sky, causing them to roll even more violently. Then, the second lightning bolt fell. The second lightning bolt was golden, as thick as a water tank. The energy contained in it was more than 10 times that of the first lightning bolt. Moreover, the speed was extremely fast. Thousands of golden lightning bolts fell, and the Black Lotus emitted thousands of black rays of light, absorbing all of the golden lightning bolts. This time, the Black Lotus seemed to be quite satisfied with the energy contained in the lightning bolts. The Black Lotus gently swayed, and Yi Chen could clearly feel the joy coming from the Black Lotus. Yi Chen shook his head speechlessly. What a greedy little guy. It absorbed all of it and didn't leave any for me. My devouring heavens and earth also needs the power of these lightning bolts. There was no other way. The 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction had just been born and was in urgent need of nourishment. Yi Chen would let it have its fill first. Anyway, there was never a lack of lightning tribulation. When the golden lightning bolt was completely absorbed, the third lightning bolt fell. This time, it was purple lightning. These purple lightning bolts were as thick as a small mountain. Each lightning bolt contained an extremely terrifying power. When the purple lightning bolt fell, the towering trees within hundreds of miles of the setting sun mountain range, with Yi Chen as the center, were all roasted in an instant. This was only a trace of energy leaked out from the purple lightning bolt. As the center of the lightning bolt, it could be imagined how much energy it contained. As for the Black Lotus platform, it grew with the wind. In an instant, it covered an area of several hundred miles. It absorbed all of the purple lightning without missing a single one. At this time, the Black Lotus seemed to have eaten its fill, and it burped in satisfaction. It was then that the final lightning tribulation arrived. This time, it was not purple in color, but black in color. However, it was not as terrifying as the previous one. It was only as thick as an ordinary person's thigh. It also did not contain any unbridled, terrifying energy. Instead, it calmly and unhurriedly struck down. Yi-chun felt great danger. This black lightning bolt was much more terrifying than the previous 3 lightning bolts combined. So when this black lightning bolt fell on the Black Lotus of Destruction, an urgent cry for help came from the Black Lotus of Destruction. Obviously, the Black Lotus of Destruction couldn't bear such a large amount of energy. If it swallowed all of it, it would explode. Yi-chun didn't dare to be careless. He immediately launched his divine ability, Swallow Heaven and Devour Earth. A powerful suction force absorbed all the excess energy into the body through the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. In that instant, Yi-chun's body underwent a drastic change. His bones emitted a crackling sound, like a piece of jade falling onto a jade plate. It was crisp and clear, and he felt his entire body go numb. A mysterious energy was flowing through his body, and Yi-chun seemed to have broken through some kind of shackles. In an instant, his mental force became incomparably huge, as if it had broken free from some kind of shackles. Yi-chun felt that his whole body was a lot lighter. Although the lightning tribulation this time was much more terrifying than the previous one, Yi-chun wasn't afraid of it at all. He swallowed all the lightning tribulation, and his strength increased by more than 10 times. His divine sense covered more than 50 million kilometers. He felt the vast power in his body like the starry sky. Yi-chun smiled with satisfaction. This was only the golden immortal realm. When he broke through the Daluo Jinxian, or even the Sage-to-Be or Sage realm, what kind of glory would he have? After Yi-chun finished crossing the tribulation, all the demon beasts in the setting sun mountains heaved a long sigh of relief, as if they had just survived a disaster. When the lightning tribulation fell, it was like the thunder of destruction, which brought them too much fear. All the demon beasts didn't know who was crossing the tribulation, but Black King Kong, who had just fought with Yi-chun and was spared, knew very well. Perhaps it was that terrifying human who was crossing the tribulation. Thinking that he had to fight with him to the death, he really felt that he was dying too slowly. The other demon beasts were also discussing spiritedly. This person is really too powerful. What kind of tribulation is this? In my opinion, it's much more powerful than Daluo Jinxian's lightning tribulation. That's right. This terrifying lightning tribulation is too terrifying. If we encountered it, we would have been turned into ashes. I wonder which demon saint's descendant he is. I've only felt this kind of terrifying lightning tribulation from the golden-winged rock from the setting sun mountains. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for being the first to reach the golden immortal realm. He is rewarded with 50,000 innate attribute points, 20,000 supreme grade immortal stones, and 100 million superior grade immortal stones. This world announcement was broadcasted 3 more times on the World Channel, and it immediately caused a huge uproar. Oh shit, did I hear wrongly? Yi-chun has reached the golden immortal realm. What kind of speed is this? It's like cheating. Don't be discouraged, we can also catch up. We're still separated from Yi-chun by the mortal evolution state, purple mansion state, nirvana state, immortal foundation state, god martial state, tribulation passing state, human immortal. Forget it, I can't continue. Yeah, this gap is really despairing. At the same time, the players of Beauty's Alliance who had been adventuring in the Reincarnation Dynasty's territory also heard this announcement. Hu Xiaoya waved her little fists excitedly and said, "Sisters, did you all hear that? Our husband has successfully reached the golden immortal realm. He's really amazing." That's right. Don't you know whose husband that is? Of course our husband is amazing. Li Mingyao also said with a smile, "Sisters, we must work harder. We can't let the gap between our master and us be too big." The Beauty's Alliance was naturally in full swing. In fact, they basically wouldn't encounter any danger in the Reincarnation Dynasty's territory, mainly because the Northwest Cloud State's territory was just too big. Of course, Yi Chun couldn't clear out all the treasures one by one. The women from Beauty's Alliance were the only ones left in the vast northwest Cloud Province, so all the treasures would belong to them. After Yi Chun collected the grade 9 purple Ganoderma in the Sunset Mountain Range, he immediately prepared to leave for the next territory. When he was about to leave, he scanned the surrounding territory with his powerful divine sense. To his surprise, he discovered that the Black King Kong that had challenged him at the beginning was hiding in a huge cave, trembling. It was constantly praying that Yi Chun wouldn't find trouble with it. Yi Chun shook his head in amusement. It seems like this Black King Kong has been thoroughly beaten up by me. Suddenly, Yi Chun frowned as he remembered something. Chapter 1340. Yi Chun had indeed thought of something good. It was the immortal transformation fruit. As long as a human cultivator reached the Nirvana realm or above, they would be able to skip several major realms and become a human immortal. Its effects were comparable to divine elixirs. The immortal transformation fruit also had a special characteristic. It was only effective on human cultivators. Not only would it be ineffective for demons, but it would also cause them to vomit and have diarrhea. Demons would even smell a strange stench from the immortal transformation fruit. It would make them feel uneasy even from hundreds of miles away. In his previous life, there were not many immortal transformation fruits. Legend had it that they had been destroyed in large numbers by demons. In the past, many human players had been searching for the immortal transformation fruit. However, they could only search for it in the ruins. Yi Chun had once been one of them. Unfortunately, he had never been able to find it. It seemed that the largest ruin of the immortal transformation fruit was near the Nirvana mountain range. Let's go look for it. Yi Chun soared into the sky and spread out his powerful divine sense to search for the immortal transformation fruit. Tens of millions of miles away, in a mountain range that Yi Chun's divine sense could not reach, a group of Yao clan members were busy working in full swing. This mountain range was very majestic, and there were bursts of purple clouds lingering above it, as if it was a fairyland. However, these busy demonic beasts were doing things that did not conform to the surrounding environment. These demons were all tall and muscular. They looked ferocious and huge. They were trampling around, destroying a beautiful valley filled with butterflies and fragrant flowers. Rumble! The earth quaked, and the mountains swayed. Countless flowers and trees were destroyed. Not far behind them, a young man who had successfully taken human form was sitting cross-legged on a cloud couch, surrounded by golden, auspicious clouds. He was surrounded by surging demonic aura. This young man was more than 8 feet tall. He had purple hair and a pair of light blue eyes. Occasionally, a trace of evil aura would appear at the corner of his mouth. He looked very enchanting. There were 2 fox demons serving him attentively by his side. It was a wine cup carved from 1,000-year-old jade. It was sparkling and translucent, without the slightest impurity. It was filled with an amber-colored wine. Just smelling the fragrance of this wine was enough to make one feel as if they were on cloud 9. A fox demon held back the saliva in his mouth and carefully filled the cup with wine. He handed it to the young man with both hands and said with a smile, "Master Ji Wushuang, how long are we going to stay here?" Ji Wushuang's long and narrow eyes narrowed. "The high priest has ordered us to destroy all of these damn stinky fruits. This is the last place. As long as we eliminate all of the stinky fruits here, we can return home." "Yes, yes, yes." The little demon didn't dare to speak any more nonsense and obediently stood behind Ji Wushuang. Ji Wushuang's fair and slender fingers held the wine glass and gently shook it. The amber wine swayed gently like a wave. Ji Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. A trace of irritation flashed through his pupils. He was the most outstanding young man in the tribe. He could become a demon immortal before the age of 3,000. His future was bright. He was flushed with success. What made him slightly unhappy was that he was about to marry the daughter of the tribe leader. That was a golden-toothed wild boar demon that weighed more than 5,000 kilograms and hadn't fully transformed. Thinking of this, Ji Wushuang was very irritable. There were so many beautiful female demons throwing themselves at him. Any one of them was 10,000 times stronger than that golden-toothed wild boar demon. But there was no other way. Ji Wushuang had to use the golden-toothed wild boar demon's family to provide a huge amount of resources for cultivation to achieve some of his goals. Thinking of this, Ji Wushuang said with some irritation, "Tell them to speed up. They have to clean up this valley for me. Otherwise, they won't eat for 3 days." Trembling with fear, the two fox demons nodded in acknowledgement, then immediately turned to urge the demons who were working. But at this moment, Yi Wushuang suddenly felt the light in front of him dim, and a tall young man appeared. The young man unceremoniously picked up his pot of wine, drank 2 mouthfuls, and then casually threw it aside. Yichen wiped the remaining wine stains on the corner of his mouth, shook his head, and said, "To be able to make the 1,000-fruit amber wine, you animals are quite clever. If I'm not wrong, you're Ji Wushuang. I didn't expect to meet you here." Yichen looked at Ji Wushuang with great interest. He was indeed very surprised. In his previous life, Ji Wushuang was one of the most outstanding experts of the demon race. He was ranked 6th among the top 10 experts of the demon race. The number of people who died in his hands was innumerable. Ji Wushuang had already stood up quickly. A cold light flashed through his long and narrow eyes. The vigilance in his heart was raised to the extreme. This person could appear in front of him silently, so his cultivation must be higher than his. He cautiously said, "Your Excellency, you don't seem to be a member of our demon clan. The Golden Tooth Boar tribe is doing business. Unrelated people should stay away." Yichen suddenly raised his head and laughed. He pointed at Ji Wushuang and said, "I suddenly remember. You once married the ugliest and most bad-tempered female boar in the golden-toothed wild boar tribe, right? When night comes, can your small body withstand it?" Yichen held his stomach and laughed. He also just remembered that this was a popular topic in his previous life. It was also a dark history of Ji Wushuang. After Ji Wushuang became famous, he secretly killed all the members of the golden-toothed wild boar tribe, including his wife. However, it was inadvertently exposed. After hearing Yi Chen's ridicule, Ji Wushuang's white face suddenly turned a little purple. Anger instantly overwhelmed his reason. He gnashed his teeth and pointed at Yi Chen, saying, "Bastard, are you here to make fun of me? You're courting death." Yi Chen laughed and said, "Of course I'm not here to make fun of you. I'm here to kill you." After saying that, Yi Chen suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Ji Wushuang's neck with lightning speed. In his previous life, Ji Wushuang was one of the top 10 demon experts. He could destroy the world with a wave of his hand. Even a gold immortal was just an ant in his hands. But now, Ji Wushuang had not grown up. At best, he was only a demon immortal. Yi Chen had just broken through to the realm of gold immortal, which was one realm higher than Ji Wushuang. Ji Wushuang was like a chicken in Yi Chen's hands, unable to fight back at all. Crack! Ji Wushuang's neck was directly broken by Yi Chen, and then all the energy in his body was devoured. Poor Ji Wushuang, one of the top 10 demon experts in the future, did not know who killed him. Chapter 1341. After Ji Wushuang died, he dropped a few immortal equipment. If these equipment were to be found in the outside world, they would definitely be divine weapons in the eyes of ordinary players. There might even be bloodshed over them. But in the eyes of Yi Chen, who had a huge amount of top-grade equipment, it was nothing. At this moment, a world announcement was heard. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully killing a demonic immortal. Reward: 20,000 innate attribute points, 5,000 supreme-grade immortal stones, and 15,000 high-grade immortal stones. Yi Chen was speechless. The reward for killing a demonic immortal a second time was much less than the reward for the first time. He was not satisfied, but the players of the Three Kingdoms world were once again in an uproar. Can someone tell me what's going on? How long has it been? How did Yi Chen kill another demonic immortal? Are the demonic immortals of the chaos world so weak? Wrong. It's not that those demonic immortals are weak. It's that Yi Chun is too strong. I really don't want to suffer anymore. Can someone tell me how to turn off the world announcement? Coward. A true warrior dares to face a bloody life. At this moment, the two fox demons who had just left returned. When they saw the scene in front of them, the two fox demons were so scared that their faces turned pale. They pointed at Yi Chun in disbelief and said in a trembling voice, "How dare you? Do you know who you killed?" Noisy. Yi Chun had no interest in talking to these small demons. He pointed at them casually. The two small demons instantly exploded into pieces that filled the sky. Then, Yi Chun's divine sense enveloped the valley in front of him. His expression changed. These damned things were still destroying the immortal transformation fruit. Then, Yi Chun's figure flashed and appeared in the sky above the largest valley in a mountain range. He released all of his cultivation without restraint. The small demons that were wreaking havoc in the valley were all low-level demons. Under the pressure of Yi Chun's golden immortal level, they all knelt on the ground and trembled. Yi Chun looked at the valley that had been ruined by them, and the anger in his heart could not be suppressed. Before the immortal transformation fruits ripened, they were all ruined by the demons. Some of the immortal transformation fruits were dug out and crushed. Some of the demons even spat out fire, burning the entire valley into a barren land. Fortunately, the cultivation levels of these demons were not high, and they did not cover the entire valley. That was why they were able to wait for Yi Chun to arrive. Many demons knelt on the ground and wept bitterly. The coercion of a gold immortal was simply too great. Their legs went soft and they could not get up. A terrifying restrictive force kept squeezing the surrounding air, making it harder and harder for these lesser demons to breathe. Those with weaker cultivation bases even had their faces turning purple. They were almost out of breath. They cried bitterly and begged for mercy, hoping that this terrifying expert would let them go. However, Yi Chun was furious that they had destroyed so many immortal transformation fruits. He was not moved at all. He even released the coercion of a gold immortal to the maximum. Instantly, the lesser demons in the valley exploded into a bloody mist. In less than a breath's time, the entire valley was covered in red. The bloody rain of the lesser demons immediately seeped into the valley. The immortal transformation fruits that were not destroyed swayed their branches and leaves gently, absorbing the essence of the flesh and blood. Yi Chun's immense spiritual power sensed that there were still more than 10,000 immortal transformation fruits left. He shook his head regretfully. There were originally hundreds of thousands of immortal transformation fruits growing in the valley. Now, there were only so many left. Each immortal transformation fruit could only produce a dozen or so fruits at most. In other words, if this valley was not destroyed, wouldn't they be able to harvest millions of immortal transformation fruits? If they were used to equip the entire Samsara Legion, then the strength of the entire Samsara dynasty would increase by leaps and bounds. However, Yi Chun was glad that there were still more than 10,000 immortal transformation fruits left. He carefully used his immense spiritual power to transplant all of the immortal transformation fruits into his pocket world. He specially opened up an area that was very suitable for the growth of the immortal transformation fruits. He instructed the skilled craftsmen to take care of them carefully, hoping that the immortal transformation fruits would reproduce on their own and bring him a huge surprise in the future. After cleaning up the entire valley, Yi Chun looked into the distance. It was the culprit behind the destruction of the valley, the golden-toothed boar tribe. Yi Chun understood the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Since he had already killed Ji Wushuang, he might as well do a good deed. He might as well wipe the entire golden-toothed boar tribe off the face of this world. Yi Chun identified the direction and rushed toward the golden-toothed boar tribe at lightning speed. Yi Chun was not worried that there would be experts in the golden-toothed boar tribe. This was because in his previous life, there were no outstanding experts in the demon tribes at the edge of the Sunset Mountains. At most, they were demon immortals equivalent to golden immortals. Now that he had broken through to golden immortal, Yichen wanted to find a demon immortal to practice his skills. In a huge tent in the golden-toothed boar tribe, a fat demon pig more than 30 feet tall with a pig head and a human body was gorging itself. A huge table in front of her was filled with various types of meat. This ferocious-looking demon pig was Ji Wushuang's fiancée, Miss Zhu Suetsue of the golden-toothed boar tribe. Several chefs who were sweating profusely from the heat were placing 2 fat lambs roasted to a golden brown on plates and placing them on the table in front of Miss Zhu. Zhu Suetsue stretched out her big, black, and hairy hand, tore off a leg of lamb, and stuffed it into her mouth. She swallowed it in a few bites. Golden grease was dripping from the corners of her mouth, but she did not wipe it away. Without raising her head, she asked in a muffled voice, "Why don't I see the young master? Where did he run off to?" A little demon who was carefully serving her next to her said in a trembling voice, "Master Ji Wushuang took the initiative to ask for a task and went outside to eradicate those stinking fruits." Zhu Tsuetsue snorted coldly. A trace of hostility flashed through her turbid little eyes. She said in a cold voice, "I think the young master is deliberately avoiding me. Do you think I'm ugly?" The little demons who served her in the tent shivered in unison. Then all of them said with a flattering smile, "Miss, you're so beautiful that the moon outshines the flowers and the flowers. You're a rare beauty in the world. The young master is so lucky to be able to marry a bride like you." That's right, that's right. Miss, you're just too beautiful. Look at how mighty those golden fangs are, and how sexy those black pig hairs are. I'm not bragging, but there's no one more beautiful than you in the surrounding tens of millions of miles. Chapter 1342. That's right. Our Miss is the flower of the demon clan. It's really out of his league to marry our Mississippi otherwise. Even if all the young talents of the demon clan lined up for our Miss to choose, it wouldn't be too much. Who knew that after Zhu Tsuetsue heard these words, she became even angrier. She slammed the table, and all the little demons were so scared that they knelt on the ground with their foreheads tightly pressed against the ground. They didn't know what they said wrong to anger this female demon. Zhu Tsuetsue roared angrily. "You say that I'm so beautiful, so why does Ji Wushuang hide from me all day? Does he like those foxes who look like bean sprouts?" At this time, the curtain outside the tent was lifted, and a middle-aged man more than 10 feet tall walked in. He also had a pig head and a human body, but his momentum was much more terrifying. He was the chief of the golden-toothed boar tribe, Zhu Gangran, Zhu Tsuetsue's father. Zhu Gangran saw his furious daughter, and a doting smile flashed across his pig head. He laughed and said, "Who offended my baby girl again? Tell me, I'll tear him to pieces." Zhu stuffed another roasted lamb leg into her mouth and said vaguely, "Father, it's the husband you found for me, Ji Wushuang. He avoids me all day, and he's always dealing with business at night. Does he not like me at all?" An unfathomable smile flashed across Zhu Gangran's face. He said darkly, "My dear daughter, don't be angry. That Ji Wushuang thinks that he is a rare genius, so it is inevitable that he is arrogant. But now that you have him, it doesn't matter if his heart is here or not. Anyway, if Ji Wushuang wants to continue to break through, he will have to rely on our golden-toothed boar tribe. With father here, he will not be able to turn the tables." Only then did Zhu Tsuetsue nod in satisfaction. While stuffing herself with food, she said vaguely, "I'm going to fry him up tonight. Let's see where he'll run to tomorrow. When will father come back? It should be soon, but it's just to get rid of some stinky fruit. It shouldn't take that long." But at that moment, a terrifying pressure descended, instantly enveloping the entire golden-toothed boar tribe. A hearty laugh came from outside. "Beasts of the golden-toothed boar tribe, come out and accept your death." Yichen floated in midair, holding Ji Wushuang's head in his hand. He had already locked onto the entire golden-toothed tribe. Zhu Gangran's face immediately changed. He stirred up a gust of wind and appeared in the sky above the golden-toothed boar tribe. Behind him, the other elders and experts had already rushed over and locked onto the figure in front of them. When Zhu Gangran saw the head in Yi Chen's hand, his pupils suddenly shrank, and the murderous intent on his body suddenly intensified. The son-in-law that he had picked out of thousands of people, Ji Wushuang, was actually killed by the other party. Zhu Gangran didn't feel sorry for Ji Wushuang's death at all. He was angry because he didn't know how to explain it to his precious daughter. He was angry because as the chief of the golden-toothed boar tribe, his dignity had been challenged. Wouldn't those fellows who were eyeing covetously laugh their heads off? The elders behind Zhu Gangran whispered after seeing this scene. Their eyes flickered and were even filled with schadenfreude. They couldn't stand Ji Wushuang, who relied on his face to make a living, and they were quite jealous of his talent. Anyway, Ji Wushuang wasn't from the golden-toothed boar tribe. If he died, these elders wouldn't be sad. They would only gloat. Among them, the third elder said in a strange tone, "What's the matter with the chief? Why is Ji Wushuang's head in the hands of that human?" Zhu Gangran turned his head and glared at the third elder. Then he said to Yi Chen coldly, "Damn human, why is Ji Wushuang's head in your hands? Were you the one who killed him?" Yi Chen heard this and raised Ji Wushuang's head in his hand. Then he smiled and said, "Are you talking about this idiot? I did kill him. So what? Do you want to avenge him?" At this moment, a violent roar suddenly came from the ground. It was Zhu Tsuitsue who walked out of the tent and happened to see Ji Wushuang's head. All of Zhu Tsuitsue's pig-like hair stood straight up. Her pair of small, turbid eyes shone with a red light of anger. She growled shrilly, "My husband, you should be hacked into pieces. I will catch you and grill you into meat skewers." As soon as her voice fell, Zhu Tsuitsue's huge body immediately soared into the sky. A huge chopper the size of a door appeared in her big fan-like hand. She revealed her head and chopped towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen estimated that the huge chopper in Zhu Tsuitsue's hand was at least a few thousand kilograms. It was completely made of black iron. It was also a good immortal weapon. However, in Zhu Tsuitsue's hand, it was as light as a feather. It was obvious how strong she was. However, no matter how strong he was, the disparity in strength was obvious. Zhu Tsuitsue was over 6,000 years old this year, and her cultivation had reached the peak of the demon immortal realm. Originally, Zhu Tsuitsue's strength could firmly suppress Ji Wushuang. Therefore, when Zhu Tsuitsue showed her might, Ji Wushuang could not resist. This was one of the reasons why Zhu Tsuitsue liked Ji Wushuang. However, now that Ji Wushuang was killed, Zhu Tsuitsue was furious. Yi Chen nimbly dodged to the side. He looked at Zhu Tsuitsue's oily fangs that still had some pieces of meat hanging on them. He frowned in disgust and said rudely, "You are Ji Wushuang's fiancé, aren't you? You're really ugly. No wonder Ji Wushuang wanted to hide from you. You're too ugly. How could you have the courage to live until now?" When Zhu Tsuitsue heard Yi Chen calling her ugly, she was instantly enraged. It was as if someone had touched her reverse scale. Zhu Tsuitsue's entire body was burning with flames of anger. She retorted in a shrill voice, "You blind human, how am I ugly? I am the most beautiful woman in the demon race. Ji Wushuang likes me like this." Yi Chen laughed as if he had heard a funny joke. He pointed at Zhu Tsuitsue and said, "You dare to call yourself the most beautiful woman in the demon race with this appearance? Can you have some self-awareness?" Ji Wushuang said that he felt disgusted every day when he saw you. Death may be a relief for him. It will save him from being harassed by an ugly monster like you all day long. "Ah, you damned human. What nonsense are you spouting? You must be talking nonsense. Ji Wushuang would never say that," Yi Chen said coldly and ruthlessly. "If you don't believe me, you can ask your clansmen. Let them pat their conscience and say, are you beautiful or not?" Chapter 1343. Zhu suddenly turned her head and looked at the clansmen of the golden-toothed boar tribe. Other than her father, Zhu Gangran, who was still looking at her dotingly. The elders behind Zhu Gangran lowered their heads guiltily and did not dare to look at Zhu. Some of them did not hide the disgust in their eyes. The demons on the ground lowered their heads and pretended not to hear. They did not dare to look up. Zhu Tsuetsue's aura was fluctuating. Zhu Gangran saw that something was wrong and roared loudly. "My dear daughter, don't be fooled by this evil thief. Come back and let me kill him." After saying that, Zhu Gangran rushed toward Yi Chun as fast as lightning. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just as Zhu Chui was distracted, the samsara sword in Yi Chen's hand flew out like a bolt of lightning, carrying a snow-white light. After a shrill scream, Zhu Tsuetsue's huge body was cut in half from head to toe by Yi Chen's sword. Her huge body immediately fell to the ground. After Zhu Tsuetsue's death, the huge immortal weapon on her body was revealed. Yi Chen did not hesitate to put the huge saber into his bag. He waited for a long time, but there was no system announcement. He understood that killing a demonic immortal would give him 2 rewards at most. At this time, he turned his head and looked at the chief of the golden-toothed boar tribe, Zhu Gangran, who was rushing toward him. Judging from his aura, Zhu Gangran deserved to be a demonic immortal. His cultivation was similar to Yi Chen's. Yi Chen wondered what kind of reward he would get if he killed him. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes. After all, this was the first time he encountered a demonic immortal since he came to Untainted Land. He had to be careful. At this time, Zhu Gangran was rushing over angrily. A very shocking aura spread wildly. This aura seemed to have completely locked onto Yi Chun. Moreover, Zhu Gangran was the chief of the golden-toothed boar tribe. For a moment, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth above the golden-toothed boar tribe was distorted and constantly gathered toward Zhu Gangran. Yi Chen didn't care so much. At this moment, he directly put away the samsara sword, and the Godslayer appeared in his hand once again. With a shrill sound of wind, he furiously stabbed out. Yi Chen thrust his spear at Zhu Gangran. The void suddenly distorted, and there was a violent roar. The shocking power disrupted the surrounding loss. On the god-slaying spear, there was a silver light that kept flashing. It was as if it could pierce a huge hole in the sky. The weapon in Zhu Gangran's hand was a giant axe that could split the sky. He roared fiercely, and the vigorous blood chi in his body completely erupted. Behind Zhu Gangran, a phantom that was hundreds of feet tall appeared. That phantom was a giant golden-toothed boar. This golden-toothed wild boar seemed to have crossed through space, bringing with it a terrifying prehistoric aura. It directly opened its mouth and swallowed the power of Yi Chen's spear. This huge golden-toothed wild boar rushed towards Yi Chen in a rampage. For a moment, rocks and stones were sent flying, and smoke and dust were everywhere. The mountains around the golden-toothed wild boar tribe began to shake constantly. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhu Gangran's aura. It seemed that he was about to break through the demon immortal realm. He didn't dare to be negligent. He held the Godslayer in his right hand and took out the samsara sword in his left hand. He held the spear in one hand and the sword in the other. In an instant, Yi Chen and Zhu Gangran collided. After a loud explosion, it seemed that even the void had collapsed. The sound of thunder was incessant. The demon clansmen of the golden-toothed wild boar tribe, who were watching the battle around them, were thrown off their feet. They were crying for their parents. Even some of the golden-toothed wild boar tribe's tents were hung up in the sky. The huge golden-toothed wild boar retreated a few steps after the collision. Yi Chen shook the samsara sword in his hand. Suddenly, a clear sound of the sword came out. The cyan sword light cut through the sky, and for a moment, many strange phenomena appeared in the sky. A strong gust of wind blew, attacking forward like a storm. The sharp sword aura was mixed in the storm, as if it could pierce through everything. The masters and elders of the golden-toothed wild boar tribe were secretly shocked. They didn't expect this person to be so strong. He actually fought with Zhu Gangran to this extent. He narrowed his eyes and kept retreating. Although there were Yao god-level existences among these elders, they were still a far cry from Zhu Gangran. A battle of this level was no longer something they could participate in. Even the dazzling sword light that Yi Chun unleashed earlier made them unable to open their eyes. Now it was Yi Chen's turn to attack. He fiercely stepped on the void, and the strength of his whole body burst out together. The air in the sky was as if it was being stepped on. In an instant, he appeared in front of Zhu Gangran. The Samsara sword in his hand carried an unparalleled momentum, as if it could cut through everything. It was accompanied by thunder and wind, as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. The endless strength seemed to be able to solve everything. It was really earth-shattering. Zhu Gangran also roared. His two scarlet eyes revealed a crazy aura. His most beloved daughter was killed by a sword. It was too much of a shock to him. He didn't care about his own safety, and even wanted to die together with Yi Chun. The heaven-splitting axe in his hand was surrounded by a lot of thunder and lightning. He desperately slashed at Yi Chen's Samsara sword. Zhu Gangran's heaven-splitting axe came from nowhere, but it was obviously beyond an immortal weapon. It seemed to be able to split the sky and the earth. Endless light lingered around it. There was even a blood-colored evil dragon coiling around the mountain-splitting axe. An astonishing blood-colored baleful aura surged forth, and the downpour actually turned into a rain of blood that filled the sky, sprinkling down unceasingly from the sky. Yi Chun didn't move at all. He held the sword in his left hand and the spear in his right hand. His fighting spirit was like a rainbow. It was the first time he fought so happily. For a moment, the sky above the golden-furred boar tribe was filled with strength. The wind and rain were like the end of the world. Those tense and ordinary demons had been cut into pieces by the sword light that filled the sky. The system kept reminding Yi Chun that he had innate attribute points or experience points. He didn't have time to check it now. His hands were like lightning, and he wanted to kill Zhu Gangran. Zhu Gangran kept retreating under Yi Chen's attack. He accidentally knelt down in the void. Suddenly, Yi Chun seized the opportunity and whipped Zhu Gangran's thick neck with the Godslayer in his hand. He immediately let out a blood-curdling scream and fell from the sky with his head facing downwards. It was as if a 1,000-pound boulder had fallen from a high altitude. With a loud bang, he smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater that was dozens of feet deep. When Zhu Gangran quickly climbed out of the deep pit, his body was covered in blood. The bottom of the pit was dyed red with blood. His head and face were covered in blood, and he looked like an evil ghost. Chapter 1344. After Yi Chun sent Zhu Gangran flying, he quickly retreated and calmed his heaving chest. The strength of this boar demon really couldn't be underestimated. Zhu Gangran screamed like an evil spirit, his eyes full of madness. He stared at Yi Chun. Damn maggot. Trash. Trash that should be thrown into the frying pan. Today, either you die or I die. After saying that, Zhu Gangran suddenly turned around and roared madly at the elders who were watching the show. You bunch of useless trash raised by bitches. How long are you planning to watch the show? Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. It's nothing more than a sandpiper and a clam fighting. The fisherman benefits. But you bunch of trash, don't forget, if I die, the nobles of our families will investigate and none of you will be able to escape. Zhu Gangran's words immediately made the elders' faces change dramatically. These elders naturally understood that although the golden-toothed boar tribe's strength was not bad and looked impressive, in fact, it was only a vassal family of the Black Tiger tribe. The reason why Zhu Gangran could be the leader of the golden-toothed boar tribe, in addition to his strength being the strongest, the most important point was that he had obtained the approval of the Black Tiger tribe. Only Zhu Gangran could take the position of leader, if the nobles of the Black Tiger tribe knew about it. If these elders watched Zhu Gangran being beaten to death by foreign enemies and did nothing, then they would suffer the tragic punishment of being entangled by 10,000 snakes. When they thought of the miserable ending of being thrown into the 10,000 snake cave, these elders suddenly became horrified. The second elder's pair of cunning little eyes looked around and said with a dry smile, "Lord Patriarch, don't worry. We're not sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight. Isn't it because we see that you're eager to take revenge, and if we rashly intervene, it will make you unhappy? In our opinion, Lord Patriarch's divine power is unparalleled. This insignificant ant is easy to capture. Who would have thought that you're not a match for it?" The third elder laughed and said, "That's right, Lord Patriarch. Your strength is not as good as before. Tell us honestly, did you waste your strength on the white belly of some fox spirit these past 2 days?" These elders said ambiguous words, but they didn't dare to be negligent. At the same time, they flew up and stood behind Zhu Gangran. For a time, for demon god level boar demons with terrifying auras directly enveloped Yichun. One of the elders said coldly, "Little brat, it's not easy for you to cultivate at such a young age. Today, we'll give you a chance. Kneel down immediately and submit to us. From now on, you'll be a slave of our golden tooth boar tribe. Perhaps we'll spare your life. Otherwise, we'll definitely destroy your soul." Zhu Gangran immediately glared at the elder and roared, "Who gave you the right to make decisions? Zhu's Iz's demon god. I will never accept his portrait. No matter what, he is dead meat. He's he of steet, he's his yes," and said, he's his teat, comma, as where did you get your confidence from? You think you can't beat me? Stupid pigs don't have any brains at all. Today I'll just cook you all. Yichun had been accumulating energy. While he was circulating the 9 revolutions mystic art, he had already prepared the divine firmament jade thunder army. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly shouted. Suddenly, the originally clear sky was filled with dark clouds, and 10,000 thick purple lightning bolts suddenly descended. The golden-toothed boar tribe's leader, Zhu Gangran, and a few elders were the main targets. In an instant, 10,000 lightning bolts surrounded them. Their faces changed drastically. Originally, the demon race was most afraid of lightning tribulations after cultivation. This kind of lightning attribute was their natural enemy. In an instant, all the boar demons' hair stood on end, and they felt a little creeped out. However, they had all cultivated to the demon god level, and almost instantly, they opened a few huge defensive shields around them. Rumble. 10,000 lightning bolts continuously bombarded their black, transparent round shields, and the boar demons gritted their teeth and endured. Under the joint support of 4 demon gods, the black energy shield was on the verge of collapse, but it did not shatter in the end. However, the other experts and boar demons of the golden-toothed boar tribe were not so lucky. There were only a few thousand lightning bolts left, and they directly bombarded the golden-toothed boar tribes. In an instant, countless low-level boar demons were turned into ashes by the lightning bolts, and they died just like that. Even if the boar demons of the demon god level were not killed by the lightning bolts, they were not optimistic. Their bodies were char black, and even their internal organs were burnt. They fell from the sky and lay on the ground, screaming in pain. The entire golden-toothed boar tribe was almost flattened by the lightning bolts. All the tents were destroyed, and all the tribesmen were killed by the lightning bolts. Yichun's big move this time had almost killed thousands of boar demons of the golden-toothed boar tribe, and the system notifications kept ringing in his ears. The notifications kept on giving him innate attribute points, but Yichun did not have time to check. The moment the 9 Heavens Imperial Lightning Art was activated, he moved. His body took a step forward like a ghost, and there was no trace of smoke or fire aura. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind the 4 boar demons of the demon god level. The reincarnation sword carried a shocking sword chi, and it swept from the bottom to the top. The sword chi was crisscrossing, and there were even some purple lightning bolts on the sword light, flashing with the sharp sword chi. Before the boar demons could get close, they already had a creepy feeling. The earth-shattering sword chi shrouded the area, and the 4 boar demons widened their eyes in horror. They had a realization. Although the defensive shield on his body could block the purple lightning that filled the sky, It absolutely could not block Yi Chen's sword energy that could destroy everything as easily as crushing dry weeds. In an instant, two of the elders turned around at the same time, and the chi and blood in their bodies were all ignited in an instant. A huge black boar demon that was thousands of feet tall appeared behind the two elders at the same time. The two black boar demons were completely condensed from demonic aura, and they seemed to have a physical body. After letting out an earth-shattering roar, the huge black boar demon charged madly towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen immediately narrowed his eyes. The charge of the two black boar demons was like thousands of soldiers and horses moving at the same time. The entire Samsara Legion's charge of millions of soldiers was nothing more than this. Chapter 1345. These two black boars were mighty and mighty, as though they were indestructible. The entire void trembled violently, as though they could crush everything with their stomps. When Yi Chen saw this, he smiled coldly. He thrust out the god-killing spear in his right hand. Suddenly, the god-killing spear pierced through the air like a purple thunderbolt. It pierced through the void and went straight for the two black boars. Almost instantly, the elders controlling the two black boar demons sensed the danger of death. Immediately, more than 10 thick black shields appeared on their bodies and blocked in front of them, protecting them firmly. Both sides were now in a life and death situation. It all depended on who would attack who first. The two elders had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. No matter how powerful the Godslayer was, it was impossible for it to wear more than 10 thick black shields time and time again. As long as they could by a breath's time, the two black boar demons would be able to trample Yi Chen into pieces. However, they did not know the origin of the Godslayer in Yi Chen's hand. If they knew that it was the weapon of demon ancestor Luo Ho, they would have run as far as they could. Puchi, the divine spear pierced through the air at an extremely fast speed. Like a bolt of lightning, it directly pierced through the dozens of thick black shields. Those black energy shields that could withstand the combined attack of hundreds of demon immortals were as fragile as paper under the attack of the Godslayer. In an instant, the Godslayer pierced through the black shields and directly pierced through the chests of the two boar demon elders. Immediately, a basin-sized hole was blasted open on their backs. Their internal organs were all turned into powder in an instant. In an instant, a rain of blood fell from the sky. The rain of blood dyed the dilapidated walls of the golden-toothed boar tribe red. The moment the corpses of the two demon immortal elders fell to the ground, two immortal artifact-level weapons were dropped. Yi Chen was quick to react. He did not even look at them and directly grabbed them in his hand. At the same time, the reincarnation sword in his hand enveloped Zhu Gangran and the other boar demon elder in an instant. With a thunderous boom, the head of one of the elder boar demons was immediately blasted to pieces by the sword chi. He let out a miserable howl before he stopped breathing. Zhu Gangran was completely stunned by this sudden change. The three demon god elders of the golden-toothed boar tribe were all slaughtered in an instant, leaving him alone. Zhu Gangran's heart felt as if it had fallen into the nine nether abyss. At this moment, he was completely awake. He couldn't care less about the blood feud of killing his daughter and son-in-law. Without hesitation, he turned his huge body, stimulated his life energy, and fled for his life. If he continued to fight today, he would definitely die. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape. The reincarnation sword in Yi Chen's hand had already locked onto him. Yi Chen's steps were as agile as a butterfly, and his body was as fast as lightning. He followed behind Zhu Gangran like a ghost. The dazzling sword light crossed a distance of thousands of feet in an instant and directly pierced through Zhu Gangran's chest. The sword chi entered his back and shot out from his chest. It shot forward for thousands of feet before it slowly dissipated. Zhu Gangran turned his head unwillingly and stared viciously at Yi Chen. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Damn it, you're dead. Soon you'll come to accompany us in the underground world. I guarantee that the Black Tiger tribe will never let you go. You're finished." After that, the light in his eyes gradually disappeared. Due to inertia, he rushed forward for thousands of feet before he fell from the sky. The powerful purple-gold axe on his body also burst out. When Yichen picked it up, he immediately nodded in satisfaction. He didn't know what kind of luck Zhu Gangran had. He actually had such a good item in his hands. But now, it was his turn to benefit. There were quite a few generals in the Samsara Legion who used axes as weapons. He had to go back and consider who to give it to. He didn't take Zhu Gangran's threat to heart. He and the Goblin tribe were mortal enemies. Even if the Black Tiger tribe didn't find trouble with him, he would take the initiative to find trouble with them. At this moment, the originally quiet world channel suddenly became lively. Ha! I've finally reached the Eldritch world. So this is the Eldritch world. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is so dense. Damn, I thought I would be the first to ascend after Yichun. I didn't expect you to be faster. So there are players in other worlds. I'm a player from the Sirius Star. What about you? I'm a player from the Blackstone Star. I'm a player from Earth. The world channel was bustling with activity. After Yichun took a look, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. There were more and more players ascending to the Eldritch world. He wondered if Yi Fan had ascended. Just as Yichun thought of this, the world channel instantly rang. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichun for killing 4 goblin demons, 12 goblin mortals, and thousands of small goblins in one go. He directly destroyed a goblin tribe. Player Yichun is rewarded with 500,000 innate potential points, 300,000 supreme-grade immortal stones, and 2 million high-grade immortal stones. Player Yichun is the first to completely destroy a goblin tribe. He has fulfilled the hidden condition and obtained the title of Goblin's Bane. When using this title, the player's combat power will increase by 10% when fighting against goblins. Congratulations to player Yichun. After the announcement was broadcasted thrice in the World Channel, all the gamers were speechless. Everyone forgot how to react. They had just ascended, and Yichun had single-handedly destroyed a goblin tribe with 4 goblin demons. He even obtained the terrifying title of Goblin's Bane. How could they not be stunned? After a short moment of silence, the World Channel exploded. Do you guys think that Yichun is the heavenly Tao's adopted son? Why does the heavens care so much about him? Don't say such useless things. We only saw great God Ye's brilliance. Who knows how much sweat great God Yi spilled while we were having fun. You can't rise above others without suffering the most. Let's just go and train hard. That's right. Keep it up, everyone. God Yi can eat the meat, but we can drink the soup. According to the heavenly Tao's nature, even if the first place is rewarded, the second place won't be mistreated. We can't compete with God Yi, but the second place is mine. Just give up. Other than God Yi, I, the glass thief, have never been afraid of anyone. The second place is mine. At this moment, in the Reincarnation Dynasty's territory, the players of Beauty's Alliance were in the huge northwest cloud region. They had been improving rapidly recently. Other than them, there was no lack of competitors. All the resources in the northwest cloud region were open to them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.